set. Ewers with pressure in his face, escapes the pocket, tucks the run. Across the 25, has the first down, stays in bounds and takes it all the way into the end zone.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Another carry for Davey Martinez, cuts it back. Touchdown, number 3.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Youngblood, the man in motion. Simon feels the pressure. Hit as he throws. Intercepted. There he is, Cooper DeJean. And he's got some space in front. DeJean still on his feet across the 25. DeJean is going to take it for a pick 6.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Sanders looking wide open, touchdown, Dylan Edwards.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
This time it's going to be Leonard on the ground. Leonard showing some moves and some speed. A foot race to the 10, to the touchdown. 56 yards. Beautiful run by Riley Leonard.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Hampton wide open running. 30, 25, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Carolina.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on a Friday. Baseball around the country. We'll check in with the college baseball regionals in just a little bit. West Virginia is already playing, and we'll have that update with them, but many other games too. We'll have a guest including Ross Dellenger and Matt Brown today, two great college football columnists. Stephen F. Austin's new AD, Michael McBroom, on them changing conferences again. Grayson at 3:45 on Baylor, and his thoughts. We'll discuss the uniform and much more with him. So, Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak are at the buffet table as far as the real set. I'm over here still offset. I kind of have gotten used to this and now maybe enjoy it more than all of you may realize. Before we get to some more college football notes, I saw some video clips or photos of the EA Sports College Football 25.
Oh, it looks smooth. It looks absolutely smooth and wonderful, and I cannot wait to play it. And I may have to, send my wife on a trip by herself for a week so that I can.
Okay.
But, or get her into it, which I think it's easier to do the first one.
Well, Max is saying that he's going to let his kid go to daycare.
From 8:30 to 5, yeah. So is there a wife daycare? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Men can have paternity leave now.
Yeah, I guess so.
Craig, there was a picture of the Cotton Bowl at OU, Texas. There's a couple of intricacies about the look that's in that game, that the tunnel, the teams were on the wrong side of the field. But to me, and I get it, I'm not one that nitpicks at it, but have you seen a couple of the clips, a couple of pictures of the game itself?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple of clips and the pictures and whatnot, and like I've said every time, I'm looking forward to probably getting and playing it, but I'm not like somebody that's into every little detail that's been talked about. I think it's been cool to kind of see the conversation around that and to see the excitement level that's building up, but the stuff like you just mentioned, I didn't notice that until somebody else did. I saw a random tweet about it, and it looks good. I would expect it to. We haven't seen a version since 2014, so It was bound to look a lot sharper than what we've been accustomed to. And you never quite know when they're dropping little hints here and there. But I think the stuff that has come out today is just adding more excitement for those who have been practically lining up to play. And so I can't wait to see, once everybody gets their hands on the game, all the different content and stuff that comes from that. I'm sure there'll be channels operating on just streaming the game for hours at a time and whatnot. But, it looks really sharp. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I know there's probably some things they still have to tweak, but I have full faith that they'll put out a really quality product when all is said and done based on everything that we've learned so far.
There was a video clip of Ollie Gordon spinning away from an upcoming safety and on his way to a touchdown. That was pretty cool, too. So let's get to some college football business and more. The Big 12 today had their business conference business meetings wrap up. We're going to hear from Brett Yormark with a couple of 2 or 3 of his comments in a minute. But let's start by opening up with a couple of stories that led to what some of the questions that he was asked today up at the Ritz-Carlton in Dallas. First of all, the NCAA, the settlement, college leaders are still not so sure how all of this fits with Title IX, including today Dr. Livingstone saying that there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to how the revenue sharing and Title IX will mix.
2 separate questions in that press conference about it, and the reason I didn't pull them were long answers to say we don't know. And there's theories about how you can maybe build some things out and, see how they distribute based on the settlement, the 22% or whatever it is, and maybe you can build out the rules from that. But even that is like such a stretch. So that is... Of all the really difficult things to have to work out, I really do think that is the one that's going to be the most difficult, because one misstep in that, and you're going to have yourself a mammoth lawsuit.
What did I say even 2 or 3 months ago about all of this eventual settlement that they were what was the one thing that might just turn everything upside down?
Yeah, it was Title IX. Yeah. And I think that all the parties know that going in, they've known for a couple years that this was coming. And then, of course, get down to the wire to do this. It's just, I don't know how much, because they didn't know the details of the settlement and what was to be distributed, that they could really make a plan for it. So now that they know that they can make a plan, they just have to be very careful about it.
Yeah, and Craig, there's I remember who was it? Hugh Freeze, when he was asked earlier this week about a 17-page overview. And he said, what did you learn? Or someone asked him, what did you learn from it, that we have more questions still than answers?
Yeah, I mean, that's to be expected, right? I mean, there's a lot that's unfinished and a lot that's unresolved. So, I guess they're, chipping away at trying to figure out what their next steps are. I've seen a lot of the Title IX mentioned, and I don't know. I don't have the answers. I find the legal stuff to be the stuff that makes my brain hurt the quickest and the most. And so I'm far from the right person to even begin to try and figure out how they sorting all of this out. But Title IX is obviously a very important component in what everything looks like moving forward. So I'm sure there's a lot of people, especially on the female side of things, female athletic side of things, that are rightfully concerned about what the future looks like. I don't know if it's to the point of, you need to be alarmed yet, but I definitely think you need to be on your tippy toes, your P's and Q's, ready to figure out what direction the wind's blowing here, because there's not a lot of certainty out there, that's for sure, and that's worrisome. I'm imagining for a lot of people out there.
Well, also there's the Ross Dellenger, who will join us today at 4. The NCAA justice settlement, Paul.
So what this means is they can't make any rules anymore affecting transfers. That's it. They've agreed to it. The NCAA can't say you have to transfer this. The only requirement they can put on it is academic eligibility, which no one's going to fight, because I would say that, if you're a student, you're like, I would like to transfer from South Carolina to James Madison. And I say that just because they're on TV right now. And James Madison's like, yeah, we'd like you, but you have a D- average. So,
like the running back that was at Louisville?
Yeah, those things. If you're not eligible,
who ended up at UCF,
then you're restricted. But schools also have that. And also, most schools are pretty good on eligibility anyway, because they have so many different requirements. It's not worth their headache most of the time, which is why I think you rarely hear about eligibility issues anymore, because that is actually something they've got funneled through pretty well. But also, it means that there'll be an extra year now of all the people who they...
Now, so you mean to tell me Cam Rising might be able to play 8 years?
Well, no, he was not denied a year. So anybody who was denied a year and had to sit a year...
Trey Edwards, women's basketball player at Baylor?
Yes, okay. That one, Raekwon Battle, anybody who lost any eligibility because of the rule change that they made gets that year back. So that's another thing that's come out of this as well.
Is the COVID year now done I was going to say, are we immune from the COVID year? I'm not sure that's the right way to say it, but is that now through the system?
Almost.
And now we have this
now
one.
we have this one, but this is a much smaller subset of people.
It's a never-ending – and again, oh, my God, let them play. The 8-year rule is what Conundrum said in the chat room. Craig, what are your thoughts now about yet another opportunity to continue a career because transfer is now dated back to where anyone who was not allowed to transfer?
I don't know. It doesn't affect me any, so it doesn't really bother me if it's the opportunity those kids deserve. I don't love the idea of 7- and 8-year college students. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, if you're a student, just a plain student, then, hey, more power to you. I think if you're an athlete, it's silly. But the COVID year is just about done. This, like Paul just said, is separate, so it's not as though they're just – and, you know, it's not like people who roll their eyes like they're just handing out just for kicks and giggles. Like there's a method behind this, and I don't know why people would be upset about some random kid at Youngstown State getting an extra year. Like, why do you care anyways? You know what I mean? So this is fine, good for the athletes. I think it's silly that, you know, we've had 7-8 year student athletes, like I said at the top, but you know, this is, I guess, just tying up more loose ends. And you know, I don't like the idea. I've seen some people on Twitter when they speculate about the future and whatnot of, like, the whole, you know, the NFL mode's basically there's been at least some tapping of the brakes on that with all the stuff that's happened here recently. You know, the whole idea of the Super League and everything like that's not as, you know, fast and furious coming down the pipeline as it once was. But for those folks who I've seen, like, gone really far of, like, this will basically just be the NFL and they'll rent out the college logos and they won't go to class and all that kind of stuff. I think that's silly, and I don't think anybody would be interested in seeing a guy at FSU playing in, like, his 12th year as the center. Part of the fun of college is that you have the rollover. Part of the fun is you're not playing with the same guys for 12 years at a time. So I do think that's, you know, there's a reason behind this, and pretty soon that'll all get its way through the system, and I think we'll return to some sense of normalcy. But it has been weird these last few years seeing so many super veterans playing college athletics.
All right, before we get to some comments from Big 12 Commissioner and some news on the Big 12 from Brett Yormark, Paul has a box in front of him. Mully, he's wearing a golf shirt. Craig's wearing a Mully golf cap. I'm wearing a Mully golf shirt. Paul, tell us about Mully.
So Mully Box is a monthly golf subscription service, and they sent some boxes to us. And, like, in the box, you're always going to have a shirt. They've got this hat here. This, I didn't even open this yet.
Isn't that a T-shirt? No, that's a golf rag.
Yeah, this is like
wipe off your clubs.
Wipe off the clubs. I've got a cool glove there, and we've got some. I don't know about
club head covers.
Club head covers here. So those are camo there from Villain. So different brands, you can kind of customize what you want in it. And if you're a golfer and want some cool stuff, 365 Sports, Mully Box, I'll put the link in the chat. It's also linked in the video, but 25% off your first box, 365 Sports promo code.
Behind Paul throughout the show today, behind our main screen here on the set. Now,
should I keep this here in case I get sweaty?
I'm the one that probably needs that.
Sure.
I'm the one that probably needs.
Comes in handy.
Now, Ross Dellenger, a couple of things, and there were others who had this, but Ross reporting, the Big 12 today reporting that they distributed $470 million. That's the most ever. They also had more teams. That also did include Texas and Oklahoma. He acknowledges there was some dilution. For example, we asked Mack Rhodes about this several months ago, about the fact that the schools who are remaining and not leaving with Texas and OU would probably lose some revenue because of the incoming 4. And Brett Yormark made this comment about that.
We're discussing revenue share, obviously. We have a formula, and we understand what those numbers look like. As Linda said, we're going to compete. We're going to compete at the highest levels. We're going to continue to invest in, you know, athletics for the right reasons. As I said earlier, it's the front porch of our institutions. It's very meaningful. And we're going to embrace the change for all the right reasons. I think it's incumbent upon the conference, you know, to do more and to provide more resources, and I'm focused on it. And we've spent a lot of time with the ADs talking about how they can grow their own resources on campus. We can be better together collectively. but we're embracing it. And we understand that's the new next chapter, and we're going to continue to compete at a high level.
All right, that's one of 3 comments we have that Paul broke down from today's press conference. Dr. Livingstone was also a part of that. Now, one note is the private equity of trying to bail some schools out.
Yeah, so let's tie this in. So this is a quote, and I saw Brandon, everybody saw open for business because he said that before when it talked about expansion. So go ahead and put that up. What he did not mean expansion. It did not mean expansion at all. They're not expanding. He's not actively looking at expansion. He actually answered that question pretty quickly. No, I'm not. But what he was talking about is other business opportunities. And when asked about that and private equity, he did not sound like a guy who was afraid of it.
Yeah, because we've heard others who are beware of that.
Yeah. So go ahead and hear
Here's Brett Yormark on private equity and the option there.
Well, listen, it's my job to provide opportunity and possibility to the conference on a daily basis and to make sure that I'm aware of what's happening. Yes, private equity has been out there in the news, and obviously a lot of people are thinking about private equity. I think in some respects, private equity is a validation of where this industry is going and the growth trajectory that we're all on. So I don't look at it as a bad thing. In fact, I was in the NBA when private equity started coming in. You're seeing that the NFL is about to open their doors for private equity. So it's not foreign, and certainly not foreign for me. But I do think in some respects it's a validation because, private equity likes to go to places where, industries are in the growth mode. And we certainly are in the growth mode.
All right, there's Brett Yormark on that. And after that, Joseph Duarte, the Houston UCF, we knew this. There was a little bit of confusion about a year ago about exactly how much the 4 incoming schools would get. They get $18 million for UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston, $19 million next year. Full share starts in a couple of years. And then, of course, you have the incoming Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado.
And so the most interesting thing about this was it was asked about because the 4 teams that were G5 schools, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Utah, those schools without the full share, when it came to House versus NCAA, would they have to pay what the G5 schools are paying, or would they have to pay Big 12 schools? And Brett Yormark here says basically they're paying like Big 12 schools now. So there you go, Garrett.
I'll take that, guys. We're all one big team here. And it was before, the G5 schools all unanimously, all 4 of them voted for settlement. I think we, from a conference perspective, and obviously Linda, we did a good job educating all of our members on what settlement would mean and candidly what the alternative was. And we all rallied around settlement. I think it gave us an opportunity to kind of co-author to some degree the future and not be dictated to what that future looks like. So all of our members embraced it, and we came together at a time where we needed to, and we had a single voice.
I like what he said there, Craig. We did not want to go into where the future is dictated to us.
Well, yeah, because that's basically what they've allowed to have happened with every single thing that we've talked about for the last 3 years. That's what they opened the door for by not acting on anything. So instead of having control over their future, college athletics just said, we're not going to do anything until you make us. And then we're just going to be fat and happy until you force us to do something different. And then once the powers that be decided, oh, no, you are going to be sued and you are going to be challenged, then you were forced into action, and your future is being dictated. As in, you're having to settle these lawsuits. You're having to figure out how much each school is going to have to pay. So what a novel idea to be proactive. What an amazing concept to be proactive. And that's what it just sounds like they're doing, is they're being proactive and realizing, especially in his shoes, that they don't have a lot of room for error, and there's a questionable amount of how much growth there is, but he's going to search every nook and cranny to try and figure out how they can boost their ammo and try to make this as lucrative as it can possibly be. But you can't do that by sitting on your hands and just waiting for it to come to you. You got to be proactive. So I think that's just a logical business move, is to be on the lookout for how you can do that and And part of that is to say, like, hey, here's a huge thing that we could be battling. Let's go ahead and just nip it in the bud and have one less thing to worry about. Let's go ahead and agree to these settlement terms. And that's why everybody did it, because they realized the challenge that otherwise would have been presented was far larger and far more dangerous to the entire enterprise. And so, yeah, that just made sense for everybody. And that's why you saw everybody fall in line in the span of days to sign and say, yeah, we too are going to be a part of this settlement agreement.
There's a note or two we'll get to about Clemson, the ACC, and much more. But we'll also have a note here from John Wilner. But, Craig, go ahead.
I want to ask Paul, so you listened to this whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing I saw after this was over with was the Ross Dellenger, the Big 12 is open for business. And immediately, everything I saw was Oregon State and Washington State are joining in August. Here come the ACC teams. Like, all this, everything was about realignment. So you're saying that was not about realignment?
No, he was asked directly about it. Like, it was so short, I didn't even bring it up. Because
let's discuss what happened, because I didn't listen to it, and I sent that to Garrett.
That's the one line is the line that you just showed.
So, no, I listened. It was a 35-minute press conference. And honestly, I could take 27 minutes out of, we don't know what's going to happen with Title IX. We don't know what's going to happen with NCAA versus House. And, surrounded by, general ideas about how they might do that. But when it came down to, I can't remember who had directly asked him, so are you actively seeking expansion? He couldn't say no fast enough. No, when I say open for business, that's why he talked about, that led into private equity questions and Big 12 Mexico and all the other things that they're trying to do to increase revenue streams had nothing to do with expansion.
Okay.
All right, well, hold on. Garrett, do you have the one, the Joseph Duarte about open for business? Can you put that one up? Because there it is right there, Craig. So that was the one that Paul was just talking about.
Well, the way that I saw it come down was there was the quote from Ross Dellenger, and then I suppose there were probably others as well, but he's the one that I saw that said, what was the other line about, what was the one we showed right before that? I'm sorry. Whatever that said.
Private equity?
No. Okay.
The distribution?
No, it was what everybody just took for being about expansion. It was
the open for business.
Yeah, the open for business. Everybody took that as the expansion, and then I guess he turned around and said, no, I'm not. And then they're like, oh, he's covering his ass, and he's –
No.
So he wasn't even talking about that.
His open for business meant actual business.
Okay.
Like, that's what it meant.
Because that's what he said last summer.
Adding revenue streams, et cetera.
But that's what he said 2 years ago to us. He said it last year. And so I think people now hear him say open for business, and they say, or they assume, and they feel that's him saying expansion. So he was talking about actual business.
No. His open for business is, I mean, look, it may be down the line, it includes expansion, but open for business to me is his talking point. It's his, buzzword.
He actually said that it's kind of the conference mission statement.
They're open for, mission statement. Thank you. Open for business means they're open for business. And right now, expansion is not the business they really need to worry about.
Well, especially looking at the payouts. I don't see how those get larger by adding more mouths, but okay.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. That is one of the things they said about, he said dilution in the thing, the quote we played earlier about there's some dilution there's more teams and more distribution, so it's a little less money for everybody. Well, now his job is to find ways for the 16 teams that exist in the league as of a month from today, or I guess yesterday, but a month from now.
Tomorrow, whatever.
Yeah. So once June is over and they have 16 full teams, he's got to find ways to make more money for them, the 16. Not more, like everybody's like, USF and, and we're going to get Boston College and Syracuse and San Diego State. No. It had nothing to do with expansion. And I'll tell you this. If any jamoke on the internet tells you it had something to do with expansion, they didn't listen to this thing and don't follow them.
Okay.
Jump right off of it. It had nothing to do with expansion.
Okay, and that's why I asked that, because when it came across on Twitter, as you know, that can come across a different way. That's all anybody took it for from what I was reading. And so you have the context, you actually listen to it, and that actually makes way more sense that he would be talking about actual business, because as you saw with the payout, like the dilution that he speaks of. And so my whole thing, even going back to last summer when we did the entire pact thing for it to end, only to then 2 days went by and it's like, this is happening now again. And it's like, we just did this for 2 years. And my whole thing was where's the money? Where does the money come from? And by
the way, the teams that remained that were a part of the Big 12 last year, including Texas and OU, knew that the money would be less this year because of the incoming 4, even though those 4 got a partial amount of the money.
And that's not to say that there's, like, no chance of, like, of course, if the ACC falls apart, like, I bet they're ready to strike and they feel like Louisville would be additive or whatever. But I'm trying to get clarification since you actually listened to it for everybody, because I think we're all probably seeing the same things and seeing how that's been taken and ran with as something maybe it wasn't originally. So that's why I'm deep diving with you here on what you heard. So yeah, that's interesting.
All right, so there you are with that. Now let's go past the John Wilner thing. We'll get to that in a minute. Matt Baker, our good friend from the Tampa Bay Times. Clemson has filed a motion for partial summary judgment in its suit versus the ACC in South Carolina. Could lead to a faster ruling of the grant of rights and who owns Clemson's TV rights if the Tigers leave the ACC before 2036. Clemson or the league. And then the best part, and in fact Matt Baker said this, the filing is heavily redacted to protect the confidentiality. They know the contract. They've been given the contract, but they can't mention the contract or they can't give out that information. And so that's the filing that's been completely blacked out.
Yeah, there's a non-redacted part of that the judge can see and the attorneys can see. But for us, we just know that, like, with the first line of that, and that's all we know.
Yeah, and that's because they're allowed to look at the deal, but they're not allowed to discuss it with anybody. They're not allowed to share it unless it's a part of the lawsuit and those involved in the lawsuit.
Yeah, and I think we saw the way the other conferences got involved and said that they don't want that type of information to be made public. I don't see the benefit of it, really. I mean, the opening of the TV contracts. I mean, I know there's a lot of investigators that would love to just get every little detail and online investigators that just love that kind of stuff and would love to see all of the ins and outs of it, I'm sure. But I don't think the general public really needs to see the TV contracts. I think the parties involved are the ones that matters here. So if they're happy, Clemson, with what they saw, and that leads them to believe they've got a way out, then more power to them. And that was kind of the sentiment I got. Yeah. I don't know if it was legitimate or not, but the sentiment that I came across was that this was good for Clemson and FSU.
Well, I would say that if you feel confident enough to ask for like a partial judgment in this, where that you can get the issue of who owns the TV rights, that if that issue is ruled upon that Clemson and FSU and everybody owns their own TV rights and they're leasing them out, then you're not talking about a grant of rights. You're talking about taking your TV rights with you to wherever you go, and then that's obviously like your share of that. And then what you'd have to pay is no longer a grant of rights. It's just an exit fee. And that would seem to excise that, and then you can start negotiating the exit fee and the payments on that. So the bigger deal was like, okay, you've got a $150 million exit fee, and you're not going to have any TV revenue, and that's all going to them. That's essentially winds up being a $400 million exit fee, which is not tenable for anybody. But if it's $125 million exit fee that you pay out over time and you get to keep your TV rights, then that is something that they want. So I would think that this, yes, if they can get a judgment on this, it depends. I mean, the judge may go, we need to hear more. And the only benefit to having the TV contracts even discussed being out is so that this could move along quickly. And, they could use some things like Florida's Sunshine Law or South Carolina to kind of push those along to get these judgments, especially outside the North Carolina case where the schools feel like it would be less friendly to them in North Carolina. They can, move it along and do that, because I don't think they really have any interest in people going, oh, really? This is how ESPN did this network deal? I don't think that's in everybody's best interest, other than all of us to know.
Well, I think the more clarity, the sooner the better on the whole ACC situation, because then we can really get into the fun part, I think, of, okay, they are leaving, or it's official. They have their way out. They can leave by 2025. I think that's when the real fun begins, because then it gets real. I mean, I know we all know that's going to happen eventually, but, I mean, having it happen in 2025 or 2026 versus 2036, Lord willing, we're doing a show at that point, but I can't guarantee it. 10 years down the, out, or 10, 12 years outside of that time frame right now. But, yeah, it did seem like there was some positivity on the Clemson side of things from this, if it does in fact lead to, I guess as Matt phrased it, a faster ruling. So, yeah, this is the case that is right in the crosshairs for obvious reasons and of a lot of interest for obvious reasons.
There's one Big 12 team playing right now in the college baseball regionals, West Virginia in Tucson, leading Dallas Baptist 4-0. Tonight, Big 12 games, UCF playing Alabama. You have Texas and Louisiana. And, oh, by the way, yes, they're still part of the Big 12, although they're going to celebrate that change in about a month, as will Oklahoma. Kansas State playing at Louisiana Tech. And then also Oklahoma down the road. They have, of course, they have a part of the regionals too. I don't think I left Oklahoma State at home against Niagara. One quick note, and then we break. Luka Doncic and also Kyrie Irving and the Mavericks have advanced to the NBA Finals. Here's a Mark Cohen tweet, Garrett. TCU's director of media relations.
We trimmed this because we took it out of the stack so we could get all the things in.
Do you want to let me know that next time?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's a funny tweet. The tweet is that the Mavericks, when they have made the NBA Finals, the years they've been in the Finals, which I think was, 10 and 11? There was maybe 3 years. They have TCU won 11 games or more each of those seasons.
Well,
how random is that?
It is very random.
That was Andy Dalton's team. That was the first year, I think. The next year when they and then I don't know what the other year the Mavericks were in the finals, but that they've won 11 games or more in those 3 years that they've been to the NBA Finals.
Well, I mean, if that history holds true, good for TCU. But I'll tell you, Luka and Kyrie were as locked in as any two players I've ever seen in a game last night. And Luka yelling, "Who's crying now, MFer?" over Snoop Dogg's head at the guy behind him who taunted him.
Snoop Dogg laughed his butt off.
Yeah. It's their third finals that they'll be appearing in. They were in it 06 and 2011 when they won the whole thing. So, yeah, they never went back-to-back. There was that first appearance against D-Wade and the Heat, and then lost, and then they had about a 5-year gap, and then they came back and beat the LeBron and D-Wade and Chris Bosh Heat in what was a stunner and was the Dirk Nowitzki show, and really solidified his already incredible legacy, Hall of Fame career, just put the cherry on top of that. So here they are, and it's 13 years later now, and making their third finals appearance. And yeah, as a Mavs fan, I'm absolutely elated. I don't want to sound like I'm on the team, but job's not done. Like I don't celebrate. I celebrated a little bit last night, but it's not like I'm going to go buy the conference champs t-shirt. I want to buy the NBA champions t-shirt. So that's what me and a lot of other Mavericks fans are hoping to be able to do here in the next couple of weeks. But it'll be a really tall task against the Celtics. That's going to be a really tough matchup, and they won't be the favorites going in. But I like your chances whenever you have that Luka Doncic guy and that Kyrie Irving guy. And, yeah, Luka, 20 points in the first quarter was sensational, talking trash to the fan in the stand who decided it was a good idea to basically poke the bear, and not realizing that he's got that Jordan in him or that Kobe in him where, like, the last thing you should probably do is piss him off in the heat of battle, and that's exactly what a Timberwolves fan did. Now, he can be sensitive for sure, but he's got that dog in him, for lack of a better term. I mean, he really does have, like, that stone-cold killer mentality when it comes to, putting a team away, and I think you saw that in the first quarter last night when he, went insane with 20 points right out of the gate, hitting some crazy shots from the logo at half court. He's so incredibly special, and this Kyrie partnership has worked out better than anybody outside of Brass in Dallas could have imagined it, because certainly no media was sitting there championing it at the time, and I didn't have a good feeling about it. Most Mavericks fans I know didn't have a good feeling about it, but it's turned out to be an incredible ride. It's not done, but very cool to be in this position for sure.
Grayson Grundhafer will join us in the next segment on Baylor recruiting and his thoughts about even the uniform reveals from earlier this week. Ross Dellenger, Matt Brown, who is all up and in the EA Sports College Football 25. He'll join us today. And then Stephen F. Austin, Director of Athletics, Michael Broom on their move back to the Southland Conference and why that. Paul's Top 5. We've got a lot to get to today. The chat room is fired up. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you have not. Share it and tell a friend. This is 365 Sports. I don't have a list. Just tell me what it is.
Petty.
PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty and his staff can help you out. If you're a man and you're 40, 45, and you start to feel like things just aren't quite the same, your energy, your sex drive, your sleep habits, your focus, it could be testosterone that's dropped inside your body. Not dropped inside your body, but the testosterone levels have dropped. It happens. Happens to 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Dr. Kent Petty in Waco can help you out. Contact him on his website, PettyClinicLowT.com, email, phone number listed, and tell him that you can tell him I sent you. Tell him you don't feel the same. You're a little sluggish. Your sex drive's not the same. He then will set you up to get your blood work. They will take care of that appointment for you. You go give your blood, have it drawn. He gets the results. And if your testosterone levels are too low, he can put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Casasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Casasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, this Friday, not this Friday, this is Friday. 365 Sports running through the day. Hope you've had a great day. Hope you have a great weekend, too. Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross behind the scene, but always a part of what we do every single day. Grayson Grundhafer, 365 Sports and SicEm365.com joins us. Paul Craig and David Smoak. Grayson, from the time you saw the early release of the 3 different colors, etc., whatever, uniforms, compared to what you felt like yesterday when you saw the new anthracite, how much of a difference between 1 and 10 would have been in your excitement meter?
Oh, I mean, it was night and day difference. I think, when everyone, I think, initially saw the new updates to the jerseys, I think some of it was more of it looks good, but also I think there was an anticipation for more. You know what I mean? And so I think that, seeing that initial update and being able to sit there and go, wow, okay, these look a lot better than they did, but it's still not to the level that, I think a lot of us were anticipating. But then also, I guess I kind of knew that there was going to be another one. And obviously during the release, there was the hint that there was going to be another jersey. I was pretty surprised that they ended up doing it during the same week. I thought they might wait to do it, before a game day of some kind. But they were awesome. And they were kind of everything that I had basically heard wrapped into one single jersey. It very much reminded me of the, back in the day, the 2018 jerseys, 2013, 2014, 2015, the black ones. It's very similar, but also with a different touch to it with the, the gold letters, I think, look awesome. Baylor across the chest looks great as well. The bear claws on the shoulder pads look awesome. So, yeah, I mean, the difference was drastic because I think everyone saw the anthracite jersey and we're kind of sitting there going, well, I wish they could have done this with all the jerseys. Now, obviously, Baylor could not do that. You got to adhere to some limits, and Nike can only do so much with updates to jerseys. But the fact that they got an alternate that was so perfect, I think is very, very good for the program and something that I think the fan base truly is excited about. And I think that's really important coming off of what was such a tough season last year, but what has been such a productive offseason.
So how does this register with recruits when it comes to uniform changes, particularly a cool alternate like they now have, which they have not had for quite some time now?
So I actually think some of the recruits were able to see the anthracite jersey in particular before it was released by Baylor. I believe that there was a little bit of that going on, not a lot, but the few guys that were on campus very, very recently, I think might have gotten to get a little bit of a preview of that. And I think the reception was really good and just kind of the whole cool factor, right? That's always a big deal. Not something that I think, at least in my eyes, it's not something that changes the recruitment. It's not something that, okay, now I'm definitely going to Baylor or anything like that. But I do think it's one of those things where you show a recruit that, and they're able to put it on and wear it and things like that. It is a cool moment for them. And so I think it's more of that, not necessarily a determining factor in the recruitment.
Grayson, do you have a favorite combination that you've seen? Or I guess they haven't shown combinations. I know Colt's been putting out some options there, but do you have a favorite set that is the plain, full-colored one? And what kind of combination, if any, that you've checked out would you like to see?
Right. So my favorite normal one is actually the green one. Okay. It definitely gives Packer vibes, but that's definitely my favorite one of the ones that they've already released. I think Colt's done a really good job of mix and matching some of the combos. I felt like when he put out the anthracite one with the gold helmet, that one was pretty cool. I think you could do it with green as well, and I think it would look good. So in general, I think they have a lot of mix and matching to do. He also changed some of the face masks on some of them as well. So I'm curious if that becomes, more of the norm because they really haven't done that in recent years. So yeah, I'd say, the green full set, great. The anthracite full set, awesome. And then being able to mix and match, with that gold helmet potentially, I think looks really, really good. And I think in general, they did a really nice job with the updates. They just, as you've mentioned multiple times, Craig, they just were so bland and so plain for this stretch since 2019. even just adding a little bit of things, a little bit of nuance, a little bit of detail to the jerseys, I think it does go a long way.
Well, I talked to a couple of people yesterday in Baylor Athletics, and I wanted to know why the timeline of what they did. And I think they understood the first release earlier this week was something that really there was Nike and what Nike wanted. I'm sure the schools obviously have some play in that, but I think they kind of expected a little bit of, I don't know if the word would be blowback, but maybe disappointment or And then 2 days later, they unveil this one. Do you like the way they did that, the way they planned that, or that's what they're saying?
I do love the way they did it. I mean, I mentioned to you, I really thought that they were going to wait on showing the anthracite until a game day. And honestly, I know back when they had all those jersey combos, they did a great job of rotating jerseys, but they also used the ones that people always felt like were the coolest a lot. Whether it was the black jerseys or the black jerseys with the chrome helmets, a lot of people love those, or the black matte helmets as well. I just think that there's an opportunity here now for Baylor to be able to mix and match that anthracite jersey with different helmets or different face masks. And I just think in general, kind of like I said, I think if all their jerseys looked like the anthracite one, just in the different colors, I think everyone would have been completely blown away. Now, they did not have the ability, I don't think, to do that. And so that goes to the strict timeline, like you mentioned. Just there were things that I don't think were feasible for them to be able to do during this latest update period, but for them to get an alternate just completely right, I think they absolutely hit a home run with the alternate. Is absolutely a big deal. And I think the way they did it was actually really nice, because I do think there is room for Baylor fans to be excited this offseason. And I think even with the transfer portal, there comes uncertainty with that. And so I think in general, this gives them just something concrete that they know is going to be solidified in the future for the next 5 years or so to get people excited about it. So, yeah, I like the way they did. I'm glad they did during the offseason.
Grayson, any thoughts as June visits start to get underway here? I mean, I guess that's the only thing on tap, right? I mean, basketball, there's always a chance, I guess, somebody could trickle in from the portal. Most of the spring sports, or I guess all the spring sports now are done. I guess you got track and field with some stuff, but is it pretty much all eyes on June visits now?
Right, it definitely is. I mean, so, landing Edward Griffin, I guess this was, a little less than a week ago, getting quarterback in the class. That was huge, obviously. That was a nice start, I think, towards the month of June. You're also going to have the guys in the 2024 class, the ones who have not enrolled already, early enrolled. You're going to have those guys enroll. I believe that's coming up this upcoming week, I think is when they're going to enroll on campus. So that's something to look forward to. But you're right. I mean, in general, all eyes are on June 7th, June 14th, and June 21st, where Baylor's going to have 3 straight weekends of official visits. They're also going to have 3 straight camp weekends as well, where they're going to try to send out more offers and evaluate prospects. But for the official visits, I mean, this is a huge time for the Baylor staff. And during this entire 2025 class, I've been pretty adamant that, Baylor, I think, is going to care about recruiting rankings in this class. And I think they're going to care about taking a rather large number of high school prospects compared to the last couple classes. And so for that reason, I think Baylor fans' expectations should be high. I know my expectations for how they're able to close this class are pretty high, just based on the guys that they're getting on campus, just based on how they've prioritized recruiting during this 2025 cycle. And, the current list that they have, I mean, there's probably 5 guys who are either ranked inside the top 100 recruits in the entire country, or in my eyes, there's a couple that I believe should be in that list of prospects who are right on the fringe of being in that number as well. So you have guys like that, of that, higher end talent, those high 4-star type guys. That's going to add some intrigue. But then they also have a lot of guys that they've been recruiting for a long time, and that they're trying to solidify in this class to give them a really good, baseline in the class, give them guys who really fit the program culturally, who they've been recruiting for a long time, and then also trying to shoot for the stars a little bit and try to land some of the guys that they've made priority targets who are, being recruited by just about every school in the country. And so trying to win some battles like that, I think, is going to be really important, at least winning a couple of them. And they're giving themselves an opportunity with that just based on the recruiting list that they've put together so far.
Grayson, you said that they are going to care more, or I want to make sure that they're going to care much more about the rankings. Is that a PR type of thing, or has that been hurting them that perhaps they haven't had enough of the – and they've never been a top 10 class. I think Art Browse's last class was his best ever. I may be wrong, and we know what happened to that one. Is that just something that coaches go and find who they want, the fits, and if he's talented, even high level, great. But what does that actually mean?
So I guess just kind of my perception on it is just the way that they've really been, I think, talking about this class on social media, trying to build up momentum for this class, and just the guys they've been targeting. It's just a little different, I think, than the past couple of years. And I'm not going to say that what they've done in the past, doesn't work, because I think it does, but I do think that there was room for improvement when it came to NIL and when it came to the prospects you were going to target. And so I think that has shifted a little bit in the 2025 class. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to go away from the formula that, they believe is successful, but I have this feeling that there is more of a care about it. And I think with a bigger recruiting class comes more potential to have a highly ranked class as well. And so because you kind of view this class as being a little bit of a bigger one, probably getting above 20 prospects in it, you're going to give yourself a better opportunity to be ranked highly nationally. Not like that matters, more than anything, because I think that people get too caught up in that sometimes. But I do think when you're able to land some of the higher quality guys that you've been going after, some of the guys who, you're winning a major battle against, I do think that's a big deal. And so for them to be somewhere in that top 25 range, I think would be a big deal perception-wise, and also a big deal just for the talent on the roster. So, yeah, again, it's the way that I viewed this class from the very beginning. I think this is one that they've really been targeting, and that doesn't necessarily mean they won't take transfers, but I do think that it means they're really trying to put a strong emphasis on this class being, as good as it possibly can be.
Any further reaction to Edward Griffin committing? You mentioned the fact that they picked up a quarterback. It's been just about a week now at this point, but I guess we haven't talked about it much on this show. Just, I guess, in general, your overall thoughts, and does he, I don't know about swaying guys or anything, but is he a vocal type of kid that's going to help recruit this class? I mean, how do you kind of view Griffin as a prospect and also as the personality?
Right. So, I mean, it is interesting just because you mentioned the recruiting side. That's one of the first couple things that he actually mentioned to me, was just that he feels like Baylor's recruiting at a really high level, and that they're recruiting guys who are going to really make the program successful. And I think, a lot of the kids that you talk to, they view this program as trending in the right direction. And I know a lot of fans kind of aren't really on board with that, but I do think that based on what recruits have been able to see and hear and talk to the staff and learn from the team and the players on the team, I do think that recruits are responding really well to this idea that Baylor's going to turn it around this year. And he's the guy who's mentioned that as far as their recruiting goes and just the trajectory of the program. But yeah, I think this one's a big deal because, if you go back to last year, if y'all remember, Baylor was kind of in a weird spot with recruiting where they kind of missed on some prospects. And then they had another wave of prospects they started recruiting and missed on all of those guys. And then eventually they ended up landing on Nate Bennett and offering him and really targeted him and focused on him. And then he committed. But there was a stretch in there where they were really struggling recruiting quarterback in that 2024 class. And so for them this year to lose Adam Schobel and have that big loss, but then turn around a month later and the first guy they offered, the first guy that they truly target and go after, they're able to get a commitment from him. I think that's a big deal. And, I mean, this guy was the district 6-6A MVP. He led Coppell to a 12-1 record. I mean, they were really successful on the field in large part because of him. Extremely accurate. And I think the biggest thing with him that really stands out to me is just this spring, he's taken another big step forward. So this was his first year being the starting quarterback at Coppell full time. He had a really, really good year, but he's followed it up with a really strong spring where he's been really good in 7-on-7, went to the Elite 11 regional and won the accuracy challenge with ease at that as well against some of the top quarterbacks in the country. And I think for that reason, it's really stood out to the Baylor staff. So for them to get a guy that really they focused on, right after Adam Schobel, I think speaks volumes about the kind of prospect they view him as and the kind of prospect, that they think they're going to get and the culture fit as well.
You talk to these players who commit or are being recruited by Baylor a lot. And we used to, and you know this, Grayson, we would get players who made commitments, and it just got to the point where there were so many decommitments, and everywhere. All the programs deal with it. And then the high school, the transfer portal with college. My question about Griffin, do the quarterbacks who commit to Baylor understand the PTSD that still might exist because of Austin Novosad?
I really try to not ask, prospects too much about that. I know Nate Bennett, I feel like, was pretty open just about that. And I think that in large part is also because Sean Bell was still here at Baylor, that I think that probably changed some things, right? Because, Sean got a lot of, I think, blowback for their high school recruiting when a lot of it truly, there was nothing he could do about, the Zach Pyron situation. And then, of course, the Austin Novosad situation where, he's traveling to Oregon in the middle of the night for, a one-day official visit and then flipping. Like, there's just things that you can't really plan for. And ultimately, people can be upset about that, but would you rather have the opportunity to land a top 150 player in the country, a top 10 quarterback in the country, and have him committed all the way to the last day, and you have, the best shot possible to land the best possible quarterback? I think that's the better strategy. And if you just happen to miss on that, well, okay, here's the transfer portal, and you can go find a guy to make up for that loss, which Baylor has done in the past as well. So I think with Sean Bell leaving and kind of moving on, and Jake Spavital coming in, I think that's changed a little bit. And I don't think players are hearing quite as much about that, even though I know a lot of these guys knew Adam Schobel was committed to Baylor for a long time, because Baylor was pretty honest with every quarterback they were talking to and saying, we have our guy right now. And so while we like you as a prospect, we're going to have you visit and things like that. They weren't going to offer anyone until Schobel, made his decision. Ultimately, He made his decision rather early, and then Baylor moved on to their next guy. And so I think it's more like that now. I think with Sean Bell moving to Houston, I think things have probably calmed down on that front.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the call and time. Grayson Grunhafer. He is Sikkim365.com, 365 Sports recruiting analyst, co-host of the Bearcast, and also football analyst, too. When we come back, Ross Dellenger. My God, how many stories has he written about all of what's going on, and never-ending stories about college athletics, and even more this week? He is next. This is 365 Sports. Well, let me tell you about Ideal MRI. I got an email today, in fact, from Dr. Rob Maxey at Ideal MRI. Back in about 3 or 4 years ago, I, because of my oldest brother and what he was battling with his prostate cancer, I was told that I probably needed to do an MRI of my abdomen. I had been doing the PSA test and everything was okay, although it got a little bit higher, and eventually what I had a couple of weeks ago from a biopsy. And I'm fine. But I also had an MRI on my abdomen because Dr. Maxey and other doctors thought there would be a good thing to see, hey, is there anything else that might be going on? When you think about MRIs, imaging, rotator cuff, Tommy John, detached bicep, lower back problems, upper back problems, maybe even an ACL, MCL, or PCL. But there are other reasons to get what you need when it comes to an imaging or MRI. Ideal MRI in Waco, Central Texas Marketplace, $497 or less every single time, and the average MRI is around $1,100, and I'm sure that number is getting higher by the day. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff, techs and specialists, they're amazing. I've been there to have 3 MRIs, one on my back, also one on my shoulder, and also the one on my abdomen. They're fantastic at what they do at idealmri.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales at Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Let me update the baseball regionals that opened up today. There's a bunch of games going on, but a couple of interest. West Virginia 4-0 over Dallas Baptist. That game now bottom of the 8th. Florida is, I guess Nebraska leads Florida. Is that right, 3-2? I thought that Florida was up. That game is up in Stillwater.
Go Huskers.
They've never won a College World Series game. No, it's never won an NCAA tournament game. Also, Arkansas, they have their own regional, 8-8 against Southeast Missouri State. And then I mentioned the games going on tonight, and Oklahoma State will play Niagara. Oklahoma will play Oral Roberts. And then also Kansas State is playing against Louis. I hear you and I see you against. Okay. You got it now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Ross Dellenger is with us, Yahoo Sports. Ross, have you ever in your life thought that you would write basically a story a day about news, breaking news, and new things going on in college athletics like the last several months?
Not quite. It's been quite busy the last few weeks. I tell people it's the house case and the new model. All of it trying to figure it out and answer these questions has been like putting a puzzle together while you're drinking heavily and juggling knives.
Ross, you were on the call today, like I was, with the Big 12, and Brett Yormark opened by saying we're open for business. A lot of people tweeted that out. A lot of people thought that meant expansion, and then as soon as he was asked about it, he said no. On that, is he maybe more pushing that as their mantra, as opposed to that means, hey, I would like NC State to come here?
Well, I think there may be some semantics to involve, right? I mean, he said they're not actively, I think, looking for expansion targets, but he's always looking to grow, I think, in a way, whether that's teams or revenue. I think they're always looking in the Big 12 and to grow and expand in a variety of ways. So I think that's probably more so what he is referring to. There's a difference between, I guess, actively out there, right, trying to poach teams and stuff, like kind of was the case last year with the Pac-12, than just kind of, hey, our door's open, we're working to find other way, any way we can to grow the league from a revenue perspective and a brand perspective. He's always kind of he's always in that mode, it seems.
Ross, private equity got brought up, and I know that's a buzz term right now in college athletics, and a lot of just speculation on what that could possibly mean. I know you've written about it, but any surprise to hear his stance on it, which was very open and not at all the negative connotations that seem to follow that term in other areas?
No, I'm not surprised. I think, I talked to enough folks in the private equity capital world that, Brett Yormark is, I think he has held discussions with those people about his league. And again, I think he's always looking, right, to grow revenue in some way and always look to improve the conference. And part of that is opening yourself up to everything and trying to go down every avenue. And I think that's an avenue that he's at least looked at, just like a lot of the ADs in the country have. So not real surprised. He kind of comes from that world, right, that outside of college athletics world where the private capital, private equity concepts are quite popular.
Ross, if anything was to derail, if anything can, the settlement, is the Title IX uncertainty or what will be done with it or what happens with it or how anyone reacts to it, is that the one that might be the biggest issue?
Well, I think that Title IX is the biggest issue in answering the question of how teams are going to distribute revenue. If it has to be split with 50-50 men and women athletes, or can it be split based on value, an athlete's value to a department? We all know that about in between 80 and 90%, I think, of athletic departments are the revenue they produce. About 80 to 90% of the revenue they produce are generated by football and men's basketball. I think enough studies have been done on that to know that's the case, at least in the major conferences. And so should that mean that 80 or 90% of the revenue go to football and men's basketball? Some believe that's the case, but that would violate Title IX. So do you satisfy Title IX? And if you satisfy Title IX, then that may mean you have lawsuits from football players who believe they're not getting enough of the revenue that they generate. So it's a real issue in determining how athletic departments share this revenue. And it's kind of one of those damn if you do, damn if you don't situations, because if you split the revenue evenly and you satisfy Title IX, but might trigger more litigation from the likes of football players and continue the existence of collectives to subsidize football players and men's basketball players. And if you share the revenue unequally, then you not only risk, but you almost guarantee Title IX lawsuits.
Ross, one of the things that was brought up today on the call was new revenue streams. The thing you reported on from SEC meetings was logos on the field and things like that. I would assume, just knowing that they're going to have to start pulling out all the stops, that would get ratified across most conferences pretty fast. Do you think that once the maybe old school presidents kind of get past that we'll start seeing more and more of those things around college athletics?
I think so. I think you'll probably see next week, or maybe later this month. There's a meeting next week of the NCAA Rules Committee, and there's that is on the agenda to be discussed. I don't know if they'll vote actually. Maybe they'll wait, but I think most administrators are expecting this fall, as soon as this fall, and certainly by next season, that they'll be able to put corporate sponsor logos on the field. And that's another, it's just another untapped revenue source within athletic departments that you're going to see tapped over the next few years because of the increasing expenses and specifically the fact that they'll have to come up with an extra 20, 25, maybe even as much as $30 million when you add in additional scholarships, because of course part of this is the elimination of scholarship limits and the institution of roster limits instead. But schools will be able to expand their scholarships across the full roster. So you're going to have scholarship money. You're going to have increases in scholarship money. You're going to have increases in the athlete compensation. Salaries don't seem to be going down. So you have all these expenses, and you're going to have to pay for them. And so one of the ways to do that is certainly putting more corporate sponsorships on a variety of things, whether it's the field or even a player's jersey.
Ross Dellenger, Yahoo Sports. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you're missing out. It's a constant churn of information and a lot of great sources that he has. How would you describe Greg Sankey's true mission statement or end game? And is he now the most powerful person in college athletics?
I think that I think of anyone, Greg Sankey probably does have more authority and influence than anyone else in college athletics. I think he understands the inner workings of the NCAA process and legislative process. And, he presides over a group of schools that basically generate more revenue and are more successful in the high revenue producing sports than any other league. And that certainly makes him a powerful figure. But I think unlike some of the others, like, Brett Yormark or even Tony Petitti, he is from within college athletics and is a lifelong college athletics administrator. Yeah. And I think that he does, to an extent, want to preserve the, national competition in broad-based sports and college athletics. And so there's a little bit of a balancing act that I think he's taking right now, which is the necessary need for change within Division I in FBS in general. His schools are generating so much revenue that they have become virtually a business, and it's time to pay the employees of that business that generate that money, and that's the athletes. But at the same time, I think he wants to preserve the NCAA basketball tournament in national competition in general, in the NCAA in general.
Ross, one of the things that stood out to me is every time we hear administrators talk about the House versus NCAA settlement and all these things. There are so many things they don't know. Do they even relatively have a timeline of when they will start to know these things?
Yeah, I think it's in steps and stages. I think the first step was exactly what's happened already, which is an agreement to a short form settlement. The short form settlement agreement is probably around, I believe it's around like 18, 20, 22 pages, something like that. And there's an agreement there. So that's step one. Step two is then creating a long form settlement agreement, which is probably will probably be over 100 pages. That's going on right now. And that will be filed probably within 45 days, I believe, is the timeline for the court deadline that they'll need to meet. So by the end of June, I would think we would know. Certainly by mid-July, we'll have that long form. And then that has to be approved by a judge. And then after that, there's a 3-month window where plaintiffs can object, and then you have hearings. So the settlement won't be finalized until well into the fall, winter, and maybe even early next year. And while all that's going on, under the impression that the settlement will eventually be finalized, you'll have college athletic administrators like Greg Sankey, like Tony Petitti, Brett Yormark, Jim Phillips, mainly those 4 conference commissioners, in finalizing details around a new model and things like scholarships and roster limits and all that stuff that comes with this new model, and a new enforcement arm that polices the salary caps. All of that will be done over probably the next 6, 8, 10 months.
Ross, last thing. The media days are not far away. You know that. Big 12 in Vegas, I think it's the 8th, 9th, or 10th of July. And then there's the SEC. And when do you get a chance to get away from it all? Is that going to happen this year for you?
Probably not. I am back home on the Gulf Coast where I'm from, and I'm about to have a crab boil tonight and a crawfish boil tomorrow. So for a little while, I'm going to try to get away.
There you go. I see where you have those pictures of those on your site at times, and also I mentioned on your Twitter feed. Hey, man, we appreciate you. Hardest working guy, I think, in covering college athletics, along with a lot of other great national writers, but Ross is at the top. Ross Dellenger, Yahoo Sports. Ross, have a great weekend. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, guys.
And we go from Ross, and coming up next, Matt Brown, extra points on, I think we could take all damn segment with him on the EA Sports College Football 25 and more. And this is 365 Sports. My microphone is, let me hold on. I got to hold it up here like this right here. There we go. It's kind of dropping on me. It's drooping like most anything else that's old, right?
Yes.
15 pounds, imported catfish, $45. Available right now at Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. They're open tonight till 6. A lot of people are there picking up the live crawfish. If you order by Wednesday at 6, you could pick up the live crawfish, 30-pound sacks after 4 on Friday. Smoked pork tenderloin, whole chickens. They have select, choice, and New York or prime New York strips from $8.50 a pound to $18.99 a pound. 10% off on all pellet fuel, and 15 pounds of USA catfish. $100 is what they are for a bundle. So you have the opportunity at Waco Custom Marketplace, full-service butcher shop, pork, poultry, seafood, and beef. And they have some tomahawk ribeyes, by the way, if that's what you want to have anytime for Father's Day weekend. You could always get those ordered now. Go pick them up and even have them wrapped and put them in the freezer. And also a full-service bakery, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Matt Brown, Extra Points, joins us on 365 Sports as we head to the weekend with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak. Matt, you have been behind the scenes. You've played the game. You've now seen and what they are now releasing on an every seemed like second basis. Did they do it right based on what you now have seen?
I know based on what I've seen and based on what I got to experience holding the sticks, I think I would feel confident saying they did it right to the standards of people like you and I, right? If you are not a professional Madden, highly competitive video game kind of person and you just want to sit down and you want the Baylor to look like Baylor and Texas Tech to look like Texas Tech and you want to build up your dynasty and have some fun with your friends, I think it's going to be excellent. It was very clear to me from my experience there, and I think this even came through even more with the release today. This was a video game that took more than 3 years to make. This is not a 6-month rush job like so many other annual releases are. This was an effort to really kind of make this foundational and rebuild a lot of systems from the ground up. Whether it's meets the highly specific competitive specifications for some people in that video game community, I'm going to need more than 3 hours, I think, to kind of play through everything. But I have liked almost everything that I've seen so far.
Matt, there are so many features like the wear and tear feature and, the way that running the ball, I think you wrote it as it's actually like fun now as opposed to something you kind of had to do. It's more of a challenge. Like what sticks out to you among those features of things that are going to make the game challenging, but also like more fun down the line? Because there was a way back in the old days where this game could be very easy and you could score 100 points a day.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the mechanics are really built to prevent people from abusing the same 3 or 4 plays, right? I think it was pretty simple in the last game where the read option could be overpowered, having a fast quarterback that could sprint out of the pocket and then either kind of cheese his way down the field or take advantage of one mismatch. Everybody wanted to play like Antoine Randall. And this year, between wear and tear, between a significantly improved AI, and I think with the playbook depth, it's going to be much harder to do that. One of the things that I didn't even finish a full 4-quarter game, and I noticed this a little bit, is that every hit from every single player matters over the course of the game. And if you decide, hey, listen, the way I love playing college football is an option offense, and I want to call 15 designated quarterback runs, and my quarterback happens to be 165 pounds dripping wet. If that's your guy, and you call plays like Urban Meyer, you will kill that person by the third quarter. He will be completely unable to move. You either have to alter your play calling a little bit. You have to learn how to maybe go slow sometimes, rather than just trying to run 95 plays a game and spread some of that punishment out. It also means that I think you have a little bit more creativity on defense. So I'm excited, not just for me, but I think for lots of other people in this community to maybe dig into playbooks or kinds of ways to win a football game that maybe you haven't been incentivized to use before because you found one way and were comfortable with it.
Matt, you're kind of speaking on it here to some of the details of the game, but you're a guy who obviously with your newsletter and everything, you get deep into the details of college sports, college football. What was maybe something non-gameplay wise that you found to be your favorite thing or the most interesting thing from this version?
I think one of the really interesting things, I'm going to be excited to hear more of what the community's feedback is how recruiting works in this particular world. One of the, for everybody, the transfer portal is going to be a pretty important part of how you fill out a roster. You're going to have to recruit your own players over the course of the season. The game's going to let you know, hey, this person, feels like he's not getting enough playing time. This person doesn't feel like he's being prepared for the NFL. You have time to change things. One of the mechanics that I think is really fascinating is this idea that if you're recruiting a high schooler and you finish number 2 or number 3 in his recruitment and he goes somewhere else, and then his transfer portal the next year, you have a built-in advantage. He's going to remember you. He's going to remember all the things that he liked. And because the recruiting in the transfer portal is so quick, just like it is in real life, you don't have the luxury to spend 3 weeks scouting somebody or building a relationship. It becomes more transactional and more quick. So I almost wonder now if to kind of emulate real life, if you're at a program like a Kennesaw State or a Texas State, you're not going to be able to sign 4-star guys out of high school. You're not going to be able to do that even after you've won the Sun Belt. It's going to take a long time to be able to pull those kind of guys out of high school. But maybe you spend some resources recruiting somebody that you're not going to get, knowing you have a good chance of getting him when he didn't crack the starting lineup at Texas A&M. That's I think it's a fun dynamic that will change how people allocate resources and is more realistic than I think many fans realize when it comes to recruiting.
What is, and this is, you get questions all the time. I look at your timeline. By the way, we subscribe to Extra Points, and it's a great buy. It's a great bang for your buck and the amount of stuff that you put out every day. Matt, what are the 1 or 2 biggest questions, and if not 1 or 2, perhaps the one complaint that people have right now that they are disappointed in?
Brethren, fellas, I'm getting complaints about every little thing under the sun because I'm realizing that there's just so many people that play video games in a way that is foreign to me. Like I've had multiple people reach out to me and they're like, man, I'm a little bit nervous because I don't think the sun is in the right cosmological position for a 4:00 kickoff on the West Coast. It's over here. It should be over there. Matt, can you tell somebody at EA to fix these shadows? And I'm just like, it's like you're speaking French to me. This is I have no shared reference with you guys. I would have never thought about any of these things. In terms of questions, a lot of people have asked about customization. One of the differences in this version versus the last couple of games is you're not going to have the same roster customization flexibility because EA doesn't want to run afoul with player licenses in the post-NIL era, right? You are not going to be able to go create a Mark Manning character that you stick on Texas that just happens to be a tall guy playing quarterback. you're not going to be able to go in and bolster everybody's ratings, or maybe, as far as I understand, not even put yourself in dynasty mode. And so there are people that are concerned about that. There are people that feel very passionately about changing equipment. Like, if this guy doesn't have a visor, if this guy doesn't have a hoodie, the game's unplayable. Like, if that's you, God bless. That's not my world. But I think there's still some unanswered questions about what is Team Builder going to look like? How can I put Abilene Christian in this game, or my high school, or something else? And what am I going to be allowed to change, and what am I not? And how is EA going to communicate that specifically? Because I can communicate that to people, and some of them will listen, and some of them will tell me to stick it where the sun don't shine. But ultimately, I think that's a job for Electronic Arts, and I'll be interested to hear how they choose to do that this summer.
Matt, you got to play the game for 3 hours, and you played just on like individual game play now mode, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
So how many games did you get in? Who did you play with, and what? How good do you feel you got quickly?
Oh, I was terrible. and part of that, like I caution people, right? Like I'm not a lead of this game anyway. I've been joking that I need to play on varsity difficulty. I need to play on washed dad mode, because once I get my review copy and I have to play the heck out of it for a week and a half, 2 weeks before I file all that copy, this is a thing I'm going to do for 4 hours a week, not for 40, because I'm not an undergraduate anymore. I remember, like, the very first game that I played Akron at Ohio State. And I'm like, all right, let's go blow these guys out and get a feel for the control. I threw 2 picks in the first quarter, because the passing system is a little bit different. I got better. I played a Toledo at Tulane game. I made Oregon go play at Sam Houston, because I wanted to see what their stadium looked like and why the announcers were asking, like, why is Oregon doing this? I played games at BYU. I played them at Utah. I played at Washington. I even did a national championship game broadcast, which you can select from Play Now, and I put in Rutgers and Kennesaw State, just because I kind of wanted to see what would happen if flagged as particularly unusual. Weirdly, the team that I had the best success with, and I don't know if that's from playbook or timing or matchups or whatever, was Tulane. I think I dropped 35 points on Toledo before halftime. Maybe that's a team that I end up kind of going back to a little bit later on. It is, if you are really good at NCAA 14, you will find that you need to relearn some functions if you want to be as good from the jump in this game.
How in the hell do you remember all that?
You know what I did? Is because I knew when I got home that I was going to be doing 400 sports radio hits. And so I had a notebook. And part of why I didn't get in as many full games as everybody else did is I wrote everything down.
Wow.
Much to the chagrin of a couple of these PR staffers were like, stop writing down every team's individual ratings. Just go play the game. And I'm like, I'm a reporter. What do you expect me to do?
Yeah.
If I can't record it, I'm going to go take notes. And that's what I tried to do.
I got a couple of questions from our chat room, Matt, if you don't mind.
Sure.
From Dundee,
Of course.
Dundee's. How good is the atmosphere of rivalry games?
You know, I think I only played one of them. That's right. I played a West Virginia Syracuse game, which I don't think anyone's going to say is the most hot-blooded rivalry, but it does mean there's a rivalry. But we did see some video of other games. And what I feel really confident of other rivalry games, I feel very confident in saying that you will be able to tell if you are playing in a big game atmosphere. If you were playing Tennessee, I think was an example used, and you're hosting Bowling Green the second week of September, your crowd's going to do one thing. When you're hosting Alabama in October, that's when you see the orange and white stripe out. That's when the crowd noise is a little bit louder. That's when you see different game presentation features. And I think what you'll see in gameplay, especially at these bigger, the Texases, the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Penn States, what you'll see is if you're playing as a team that is younger, that does not have the same level of composure, they're going to mess up. The game wants you to be afraid to go to Death Valley. They want that to be an intimidating experience, and they also want you as a coach to have to scheme your team differently. Because if you're starting a true freshman and you're playing at Texas A&M and people are going crazy, you need to scheme some easy completions, some high percentage looks to give your team some level of confidence. If you go in there and you just decide to run 4 verts and you get smoked by a defensive end on the first play of the game, a lot of freshmen are going to go to pieces. I mean, you're going to suddenly see that you can't do anything. And I think that's a difficult dynamic to pull off, but should be fun to play with.
Justin R., how many teams can we add to a conference in Dynasty? Does he know if the 12-team playoff will be in the game?
The 12-team playoff is absolutely in the game. I don't know if it is customizable or not. I don't think it is because it wasn't in my notes, and I feel like that would have come up before. But the 12-team playoff is there, and with as many of the hard-coded rules that we know about how that works, right? So like Notre Dame, if you don't put them in a conference, Notre Dame's finishing fifth. If they go undefeated because they can't get one of those like automatic slots or anything, right?
Yeah.
I think how much you can expand a conference depends a little bit on the league. I think it's 20. I'd have to double check. You can also import created teams, but to do that you need to replace an existing team. So if you want to add your favorite Texas FCS squad or a high school or a fictional university, and you want to yeet UMass out of existence, go for it. But the game is like hard coded to be at 134 teams.
Barry Crawford asking me to ask you, expand on the thoughtful ads that may or may not be in NCAA 25.
Sure, I can do that. There's one thing I've talked about with a couple of developers that they wanted to do this year but couldn't, and I think you would appreciate this, is incorporate message boards. Like, it would be pretty fun if you're not recruiting very well and like digital tiger droppings or like Hogville is screaming at you, right? And we joke about this. Sports Illustrated used to be in the game. I saw prototypes of this. It didn't make it in, but like that is a part of college football culture that I think the developers would like to find a way to respectfully add without, maybe ruining a 247 or an on-3 license. So I think that's one thing to look for. Another small thing that I actually think has a pretty good chance of being in a part of a future game are adding other non-current team stadiums, right? So like this year, nobody's playing a game at Lambeau Field, so Lambeau Field's not in the game. EA Sports already has a rendering and a license for Lambeau Field. Lambeau Field has hosted college games before. It's not super difficult to put all the NFL stadiums into the game. So if you want to, in your dynasty, schedule a game against Wisconsin to play at Lambeau, you could do that. That's not something you can do now. If there's a game already scheduled at an NFL stadium, it will appear in that NFL stadium. But I could see future years having Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, the rest of the NFL fields to give a little extra touch of realism.
Last question from the chat. Dustin Archambault,
Sure.
And again, Matt, we appreciate you. Ask Matt if there's a story mode and Heisman mode.
There is a mode called Road to Glory where you create a college recruit, a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, middle linebacker, or defensive back, and you simulate that person's career. And I think that it would be fair to call that story-oriented. It's kind of a fun little dynamic, right? Because it asks the user to figure out how to best allocate an athlete's time. And you can either spend some of that time, in training to improve your overall rating. You could spend it on health to kind of recover from all those nicks and bruises. You could spend it on NIL, and you could take that time to go sign autographs or do brand deals. And those brand deals might give you performance bonuses during games. But it's set up so you can't max everything out. And you're going to have story mode scenarios that are going to ask you to kind of make tough calls about how you want to spend that time and decide what kind of career that you want to have. I imagine that is going to be replayed quite a bit by a lot of people as they decide, do I want to hit the transfer portal every year and collect as many NIL bags as I can? Do I want to try to walk on at Alabama? Do I want to be the greatest quarterback in Baylor history? It's up to you. And that's going to be a big component of that game.
Matt, great stuff, man. We appreciate it. I know you've been hammered with requests. We appreciate it when you do come on with us. Great job, man. People feedback, great guest, and you are a great guest.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will say, though, fellas, while it has been a real blessing to be as in demand as I've been in these past couple of days,
I can imagine.
Now that I'm done talking to you, I'm going to turn off this phone. I'm going to go start up the grill, and I'm going to try not to think about video games for the next 70 hours.
There you go.
Good luck, Matt.
Sausage, hot dogs, hamburgers.
What are you barbecuing?
I'm a son of the Midwest. right? So there's going to be a lot of encased meats here on this grill. I think next time I'm in your neck of the woods, you guys might have to teach me how to do brisket. Because I think if I try, I'm going to look like Lincoln Riley.
No, I was about to say that. Yeah. There you go, Matt. Great job. Fantastic hustles. And also with us, and we've had him on a handful of times, and it's been great. Matt Brown, Extra Points. And I said this yesterday. I'll say it again. If you have not subscribed to what he does, there's actually an option of a $75 a year. I think there's even some that are like less per month. And then you get newsletters that will be in your email inbox when you wake up, usually the very next morning. The way you guys have played video games even more recently, even though I know there's been a drought, compared to what last time I did, I think I would sit down and it would be for me like just staring into that screen, having no idea what this game is all about because it sounds so unbelievably updated and modern.
Yeah, I'm excited to play it. I really am. And just so people know, we're going to set up an online league where we can play with people who want to play with us. So we'll be doing that. You'll probably all lose to Jack. I would say he's the biggest video game connoisseur of us all.
He's shaking his head no.
He says no. He's not confident. He's not confident. Okay.
All right.
But yeah, I think this
was
just
shy and humble.
Jack's on that FIFA probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
FIFA.
Yeah. I bet you he'd wear us out in that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know if I could play that game. I think I would just be overwhelmed by it.
It's not that complicated.
No. But all these modes, and I don't even know what that means really. I guess it means
that's why you get the game and you learn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's not Pong, but it's it's like you pick it up, you learn about it, you get better at it the more you play it, and next thing you know, you're not needing the guide to help you out. But yeah, it's a big departure from somebody who probably hasn't played 10 minutes of video games in 30 years. I mean, what wouldn't be?
Yeah.
I mean, watching a movie is going to look different if you've watched, nothing really in 30 years, and all of a sudden you watch it and you're like, dang, this is way different than Starsky and Hutch when I was watching it. It's like, yeah, Game of Thrones is way crazier than that but by now. Yeah, so I think that's just it's time and technology improves, and we're at a place right now where there's, a supercharged system like the what are we on now? The Xbox One and the PS5 and then whatever PC models people use. But it's very exciting stuff. I'm just somewhat. I'm excited for it just as a casual video game player. But again, I'm not the audience Matt's really speaking to, or with some of the most in-depth details, are the hardcore players who are going to be playing this all summer long, and creating their teams and leading them to the national championship and all that. I don't necessarily get as in-depth with it. Maybe I do with this game. Maybe I pick it up and I like it so much, but I'm definitely going to pick it up and see how much I end up playing it, and I'm going to be happy to see a game with real players' names in it and real players for the very first time as opposed to the last time. And that's another thing. We didn't have the names in the last game. That's a major difference.
Because of NIL. NIL
so
and stuff.
There's a lot of stuff that's changed from that last version. That ought to be pretty cool.
It reminds me of you guys talking about updated technology, whatever, which of course I struggle with. I really do. I'm getting better. I've really fallen. I love YouTube TV now. I've really learned how to kind of understand that. It was like when Jennifer used to sit there and see what phone I was using. And it wasn't like she always had the newest phone, but her office where she works, her owner would always take care of that. And she would be going, what number is that? Ooh. And that's the way I probably feel about. I bet I would be blown away going into these video game arcades and watching people play these games.
Do those really exist anymore for the most part?
What was the one in Arlington? We were at Big 12 Media Days one year. And isn't there a building that wasn't far from where they had the media hotel that is a place where you go play games?
I mean, there's a Dave and Buster's.
That's the esports arena.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah.
There's an esports arena by the ballpark. That's where they have their esports teams, and there's an arena where they do. I don't know enough details about it. I do know that if I'm thinking of the exact same place, that AEW, the wrestling company, is actually going to be doing like multiple shows there this summer at that esports arena. So yeah, that's another thing that's grown a lot. But I mean, you're talking like when you're talking about those people though, you're talking about people that's like their job is to play video games.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a different. It's like a major leaguer versus somebody who goes to the batting cages on for fun every once in a while. There's going to be a difference in how skilled you are.
Barry Crawford, I'm old enough to get the Pong reference. Well, that means, Barry, I
tried to dig deep for that one.
Yeah. Brandon H., is it PS5 or Xbox Series X?
I guess it's
Xbox Series X is, no, PS5 is the right version of PlayStation, but I've never been an Xbox guy, so I was confused on which version we're on now, but yes, it's the Series X.
I had one when I first moved here because my friend had one, and that was like I needed to keep playing with him, and so then that was 23 years old. So,
do you think that one of the punishments for someone who's a one of these game players, if they were to do something and they
video game players,
gamers, they like to call them.
All right, gamers, I've heard that. Would you think one of the punishments for them if they got in trouble for something else is to sit them in a room with Pong?
No, I think it would be to give them a book.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Have them have no video game to play. Not even, like just a window to look out of and maybe a soccer ball or something in a yard to roll in.
Here's the punishment. When you take away video games, you actually make kids go outside. Like, that's what you do. You're like, here you go. You like,
here's a baseball.
There's a thing called the sun.
Yeah.
Like, go out in it.
There's a ball and a glove and a bat.
We had the first one we had as kids was a Sega Genesis, and if we tick past a certain amount of, I don't even know how much time, because when you're playing video games, nothing, time becomes irrelevant to you, especially as a kid. But I do know that, like, both my parents had a body clock of, like, it's been in there a while. All right, go.
What would be great is, how they can block channels on like cable or whatever, I guess on YouTube TV as well, is to have a timer, a literal game. You buy the game and your parents can set a timer on it.
There are parental controls.
Wow, I really don't want to live in this world. Timer on I get the purpose of it, but I don't know. That's a little too far for my taste.
Yeah, there are parental controls that you have to log. They'll have to log you in every time you log in.
Yeah.
You can do that. The problem is that kids are smart.
Yeah, they got the internet.
Yeah, you
can't watch MTV, which I don't even know if that even matters anymore, but you can't watch whatever channel people are scared of. And, just take my phone and go watch whatever the hell I want to. And like China, Japan, what's Norway watching on TV? You can find it all.
Yeah. By the way, West Virginia wins. S. Michael DeHart, thanks for the update. Let's go Mountaineers. On to the next one. And also, remember Nintendo. Was that one of the originals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nintendo. Well, it's in the chat room from Barry Crawford. Dan Miter. Smokey sounds like me. Nothing about video games. Know nothing about it. How to play them. Old school poker and pinball.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like 1 foot out, or I have been 1 foot out for a long time. I don't play Madden and hadn't played NCAA in a long time because I don't have the console to even play it at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of people who I'd imagine are going to be. I've seen plenty of folks who are apparently buying new systems just to play this game or dusting off. I guess the gift cards to go and buy systems. I would say dust off your old system, but it's not going to be compatible. So, yeah, you can't fire up the PS3 and expect to play this video game. But, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of that. I'd be interested to see if there's like a shoot up in sales for video game markets or, just sales in general of that game and of systems in the coming month, as far as just a lot of people going and saying, hey, I don't play video games, but I'm interested in this one because of the what's the word? The nostalgia.
Yeah.
Or just the interest in, hey, this is the first game in a decade. I love college football. This ought to be pretty badass. I'm going to go get this game. I think there's going to be a lot of people like that.
Paul, do you have a video game right now in your house?
No.
You have a system?
I have an old PS4, but it's essentially my DVD player now. If I choose to use it, it's not even on the main television. So.
Wow. All right, we are 365 Sports. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Just around the corner, we'll hear from SFA Director of Athletics Michael McBroom. They've changed like very late in the game, they're moving back to the Southland Conference from the WAC and questions about why, what does this mean? He had a quote about stability, and is there ever any stability anymore in college athletics? Wanted to note again, Paul's wearing a
shirt from Mullybox.
Golf shirt.
I'm not sure if that's the brand. It's different brands.
Like there's lots shark on there.
It's like swordfish.
Yeah, I got turquoise here,
which is a much more delicious fish than the shark. But if you look behind me, 25% off your first box if you use promo code 365sports, and the link is in the chat on the description as well. And I'll put it back in there so you can just go right to it right now, and do that. So.
Greg's got a Mullybox hat. Looks like almost like a fox or a coyote. What is that right there? That looks like the logo, Paul, on the front of his head. Also, on the sleeve of my golf shirt from Mullybox says 2-putt, and anyone that loves the game of golf would take that all the time. Yeah, you want to hit a couple of birdies and 1-putts or chip it in, but a 2-putt is something that I would take almost every single time. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Michael McBroom, the athletic director at Stephen F. Austin. Paul's Top 5 is about an hour away, and this is 365 Sports. The Memorial Day sales event is heating up at Allen Samuels in Waco. Even with the holiday over, the hottest deals of the summer continue. 300 new cars, trucks, and SUVs. Another 200 new vehicles are on the way behind all of these. 2023 Dodge Charger GT new, only $28,715 of the new Chrysler 300 for $32,682. Don't forget the 2024 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Limited and Laramie models, staggering $11,500 in discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? Their lot is full. Nicest, cleanest used cars in Central Texas. You won't find a better selection anywhere else. Come drive this.
You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen. Locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas. Also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
The Dundies. You guys can pick one game a week and preview it on the game. You can live stream Paul and Craig battle it out every week and see who has the best record at the end of the season. Not a bad idea. We brought up a kind of a game show deal yesterday a day or two ago when we said, hey, name all 18 or 16 teams in a conference and do it in a minute. And it sounds like you can.
I could nail that now, by the way.
I bet you could.
I fleshed it out in my head, and I could absolutely nail every single one of them. Yeah.
We're going to do more of that. So we got to find more of that stuff to do. Jack had the great idea of making players do it at media days.
Oh my God, that would be classic. Michael McBroom is the AD, Director of Athletics at Stephen F. Austin State University, my proud alma mater. I'm proud to be a part of that as an alum. Joins us on 365 Sports. If I asked you, and thanks for your time, Michael, if I asked you, name all 18 teams in the Big Ten, could you do it in less than a minute?
All 18 in the Big Ten in a minute? Not a chance.
I don't think I could either.
No.
We all got stuck.
I got 16, and I left out Illinois and Maryland.
Yeah.
So.
And then we all got stuck on something. I got of all things in the SEC, I forgot two in the same state of Tennessee with Vanderbilt in Tennessee, because it's a musical chairs, and even though it's settled down, it's never settled down. In fact, you guys are an example of that. We'll get to that in a moment. Are you blown away by how much college athletics has changed the last 25 years?
It's crazy, isn't it? I am, especially, the last 7 or 8, and the impact of, everybody, I don't really like to talk about COVID much, but that almost accelerated even further all the changes through that period of time. But it's a completely different business model, as you guys know, and the gaps between the top to even the bottom in Division I they're just gigantic now. But I also think that you can either complain about it, or you can say, hey, this is the new world, and let's figure out a way to go be successful and win championships and do the things. And that's certainly what we'll do at Stephen F. Austin. And it's always good to be on the air with the Lumberjack. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I like that.
Axum Jacks, Mike, no question about it. So you haven't been there very long with Ryan Ivey moving on, but all of a sudden and this had kind of just popped up, the move to the Southland Conference. Why back to the Southland Conference? I saw a quote where you said you want more stability, but moving conferences, at least for now, is not. But why the Southland Conference?
Well, as I was looking at through things, as interested in taking the job and going through the process, I think you'd agree. At virtually every level in sports, geographic rivalries, the geographic footprint, it's kind of the heartbeat of sports, right? You want to have those regional rivalries so that people will, come see you on the road, and you have, it's all the things, high school, college, even the pros are aligned to a certain extent geographically, save for the Cowboys and the NFC East. Never really made sense, right? But I looked at that, and then I look at where our alumni are. We have 120,000 living, proud Lumberjack alums, and more than 80% of them live east of I-35. And we're flying all over the place, playing games outside of the footprint for our alumni and where we recruit students and student athletes from. And the Southland, we were fortunate that we had an opportunity there, and as I looked at it, the ability to play those games in what is our primary market was just too good to pass up. And we need to be playing in Texas. We need to be playing in Louisiana, and building our brand and enhancing our brand even further in what's really our core market, our primary market. So that was the real gist of it. And to return to some rivalries that, as you know, have been pretty good through the years.
So I got a question for you. You don't just get to move for free, and there's all these different ways of moving, and of course the autonomy 4, or what used to be the 5 conferences, there's exit fees, and they're arguing about that right now in the ACC with Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, whatever. SFA's budget is what it is. How big was the fine to leave, and is that something you can make up, you think, pretty quickly?
Yeah, it's still to be determined what the actual number will be, but as we looked at that piece, certainly there's an exit fee. But what we will save in travel and gain in additional economic impact in Nacogdoches, we'll have that covered in the next 2 to 3 years. It really wasn't even a part of the decision because we knew that, especially with the reduced travel costs, we would be able to recoup that pretty quickly. So we'll handle it internally. Whatever the final number is, and like I said, within 2 to 3 years, we'll be good on it.
Michael, there are, schools around the country that are going into these, coast-to-coast conferences. And, for football, and if you're going to make $90 million a year on your television contract in men's basketball and women's basketball, that's probably not really that big of a deal. But when it comes to the Olympic sports, that's probably going to be a drain. How do you think this will be eventually a trend after a couple of years of, Stanford flying to Clemson to play a softball game, or Rutgers going to UCLA to play volleyball, and then having to, stay over, kind of at like in Nebraska and play another game in the middle of the week, that it just becomes untenable to be a student athlete in an Olympic sport, or what they would call non-revenue?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, it's it's one thing to fly across the country 5 or 6 times with your football team to do it. You fly out on a Thursday night or a Friday morning, you play a game, you come back, you miss virtually no class time, and it's one game. When you look at tennis, softball, baseball, the traveling as much as those teams do, it is such a wear and tear on the body. It's honestly asinine to put. When you have teams and schools and competition right around you, you've got to figure out a better way. Football is different, but the others and basketball, you're traveling small teams, and again, the revenue is there. But the others, you've got to figure out something better, and hopefully you get to a model that maybe not all the sports are tied together for the same deal. It seems to me that would be the most reasonable approach, but we're not going to have that problem, Stephen, thankfully.
So SFA, obviously, the football drives everything. You mentioned the travel, the athletes, the student athletes you're going to recruit. Was the WAC? Was there still, were teams leaving, Grand Canyon, I think Seattle, Sam Houston State initially, of course, now they're FBS. Was it just not the conference that everyone thought it was going to be? With all due respect to them, they got great schools there, but was it just not what that maybe was going to be a part of the future?
Yeah, certainly the departures of members create instability. I wasn't a part of the original discussions to move, although I was approached a couple of times in West Texas about an interest to reclassify to Division I and join the WAC. I understood at the time they were trying to get the 2-bid basketball league, which would drive additional revenue, and men's basketball would be the primary focus. That was the original dream, but again, the athletics landscape has changed and people are moving so often that a 2-bid league at a mid-major is a pretty tough thing to achieve. And if you're going to achieve it, you have to have members that are strong and aligned together. And as membership started to change in the WAC almost right away with the schools in Texas that left. And so, the membership departures create instability. And coming into SFA, a couple of weeks ago for me, we have a lot of work to do there in Nacogdoches, and to be worried about what conference would be available for us 12 months from now if the WAC fell apart wasn't going to be healthy for SFA, not with the work that we need to do on campus and internally. And the Southland had an opportunity for us that I think will be stable for the foreseeable future. And for us, that made sense to me. But I think the original dream of the WAC was to be a 2-bid basketball league, and that didn't come to fruition. I think it was a valiant effort.
Right.
But as it didn't come to fruition, members had to look elsewhere. And I think you saw that, Grand Canyon is looking to really make a bigger move than where they are and have the resources to do it. They're spending a ton of money. And I don't know if you've ever been out there, but that place looks a lot different than the other WAC schools.
You have been in athletics administration a quarter of a century. You had been at West Texas A&M as their athletic director for a lot of that time. So you have been stable. You have been where you have been. What was it about SFA that helped you move out of what had to be a comfortable situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking that. I snuck on campus. Nacogdoches, the far East Texas, and Pineywood was about the only place in 50 years of my life in Texas I hadn't been. I had to sneak in and look at it. I got on campus, and it's just the campus, as you know, is breathtaking. I felt at home right away, and then I started to meet the people. The people are just fantastic. It's this little gem in East Texas that's a bona fide college town. Yet it had challenges that kind of fit what my strengths are, and that's redoing facilities, building new facilities, getting all the programs up to championship level. There's just a ton of opportunity there, and my wife and I talked about it a lot, prayed about it, did all the things, and just felt like it was time to take on a new challenge, and all the things that make Stephen F. Austin and Nacogdoches special were really the reasons why we said let's do this, and it has panned out. There's a ton of work to be done, but we have a great new president who I've known for a long time. We've worked together at West Texas, and when you're an athletic director and you have alignment with the president and a passionate fan base, really special things can happen in a pretty short amount of time. And so, having that alignment there and a desire to elevate all the programs, it's almost it's a dream come true for an AD. And so at that point, why not? Let's do it.
Colby Carthel, football, Kyle Keller, basketball, and others that have had success. I mean, the bowling program, I want to bring them up because they've won national titles. So Johnson Coliseum has probably had a facelift or two. I know that Homer Bryce Stadium has had a facelift or two. Or what you're going to do when it comes to facilities, take what you have and then maybe change them, renovate them, or what?
I think basketball is in a good space. The roll-up performance center, the practice facility that was opened about 5 years ago, is phenomenal. I mean, it's unbelievable how nice it is. Football, we'll have to decide if we'll renovate or do something new. We have to generate more revenue out of the football stadium. And then baseball and softball have been playing in a city park the better part of 20 years. And it's just not Division I level. So, baseball and softball, we'll either figure out an on-campus solution or, potentially, somewhere in the city for a bona fide baseball park. But we've got to get those spots better. Volleyball has Shelton Gym, which is such a neat, iconic place to play. I can't wait to see games there this fall. It holds about, 1,000 and people hang from the rafters as volleyball plays. And Coach Humphreys has had a championship program herself that's been there 35 years and just does an amazing job there. So, but the initial focus will be football, baseball, softball, and soccer.
I'm glad you brought up baseball and softball because even when I was there, and I'm 65 years old, and that was in 1981 I graduated, I love SFA, love Nacogdoches. It's a gorgeous campus, as you mentioned. But even then, their baseball team, of course, it was off campus. And then, of course, they didn't have one for a while. And so,
they dropped.
Yeah, and that is always hard to overcome. So you mentioned facilities. There's now the new life of what is in college athletics with all sorts of, I don't know how much SFA is involved with NIL. And all of what's now being asked of everybody. What is the decision-making? And we've got to do this better. We've got to, like you said, create better revenue with the stadium, sponsors, logos, whatever it might be. How much work is that going to take? And is SFA ready for the future the way college athletics is right now?
Yeah, I think we are. And again, that was another one of the attractive things to me because the potential is there. We are in the NIL space at a reasonable amount right now. I don't think NIL will ever drive our decisions, but for a place like SFA, NIL for me is probably best used as a retention tool. It's more important, obviously, in basketball and football, but I think we'll use it more as a retention piece. But I think what I think about the potential of SFA is, again, the 120,000 alumni. What we really need is a vision for the future, and with the facilities master plan coming in, and I think the budgets are generally pretty good. We're going to have to generate more revenue, certainly over the next decade. If we can target 5 to 7% a year revenue increases, I think we'll be in good shape there. Our facilities need to help drive more revenue, and certainly sponsorship revenue is donor gifts. But success breeds success. And so our first priority is to get better on the field with the scholarship funding and the coaching staff and plans for facilities. And once that starts rolling, and enrollment also has to grow, because that drives revenue for not only the institution but athletics as well. If we can get everything going in the right way, the potential for Stephen F. Austin is huge. I really believe that, and I think it's not a deal for me to come in here and we'll spend 5 years and make it a little bit better. This is the last job I hope I ever have in college athletics. By the time I leave, SFA is going to be a powerhouse in all sports at the level that we need to be competing at. And I think if we can get that stability, it's kind of what we did at West Texas. And I'm going to take the same model here. And West Texas, when I took over, was terrible all across the board. SFA is in a much better place right now, especially with basketball. And for me, the whole deal for me is to unlock the potential with getting everybody competitive, everybody excited with the vision forward. And I do think the revenue, it's good now and will grow to support what our ambitions are.
One of the things I've always thought about, Michael, from even when I was there, is that like back then even it was AIAW, Sue Gunner and the women's basketball team was like in the top 2 or 3 in the country in basketball. Football had the run with Larry Centers and in those great teams in the late 80s, and I know they've had other runs too. It always seemed like that certain sports had runs, but it wasn't always at the same time. And of course, women's basketball with what Brad Underwood did and Kyle Keller in men's basketball had the setback with what happened with the NCAA, but I know Kyle's trying to get that corner turned, and he will if given the right opportunities. It's just always been more dysfunctional as far as the wins and losing, and it would be great to see all of them at the same time. Hey, like I said, okay, I got to ask you a question. The first time you ever saw the actual city name of Nacogdoches, how did you say it?
It's one of those, when I was a kid, I grew up in Dallas.
Yep.
I was a geography being, and I remember the name, and I would have been, probably 7, 8 years old. I don't recall how I would have pronounced it then. I'm sure I would have asked, but if you see it, I haven't actually heard it mispronounced anybody yet. I've heard people say, how do you say that? They're not even taking a shot at it.
Yep.
From like Canyon. I don't know. What did you say? Nacogdoches?
Yeah. Nacogdoches is probably how some of them. But
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to Tyler at junior college when I opened up my college career. So I visited the campus and fell in love with it. That's where I went and got my radio television degree and learned Nacogdoches. It does pop off your tongue or your mouth as soon as you say it. Michael, hey, congratulations. Let me know if you need any help. I'll try to do what I can to spread the word. I've always tried to do that in the 40-plus years since I left school. Thanks for your time today, and good luck.
Thanks so much for having me. Good luck to you guys as well.
Michael McBroom, the new director of athletics at SFA. They got some work to do. Sounds like they got a nice football stadium, but you could tell the way he said that they need to get ways to make money, which is the key to whether we're talking about Brett Yormark in the Big 12 or SFA or Grand Canyon. You got to find ways to make money.
Sounds like SFA boosters need to step up their game, huh,
Yeah,
Paul?
I know.
I think that 12 to 15 minute segment was worth millions.
Paul's got to pay for a freaking grant of rights buyout.
I know. Look,
you got more work to do than I.
Paul's got to contribute a few million.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you. I bought tickets for SM. I did. John Machota got us tickets. We're going to the game at SMU together. But
that doesn't even count.
No, it doesn't count.
That's SMU money.
But I'm telling you right now, I will, on Monday, I've got on my calendar to reach out to the North Texas Seminole Club about doing a show in Dallas.
That
Friday
week.
before the game. Yeah.
Well, there is Seminole, Texas too, so make sure you get
No,
that
I've
right.
already got it. I've already got their. I'm following them on Instagram. I will tell you though, it will break my heart if they go, "Oh, we haven't heard of you." That will absolutely shatter me.
Well, I don't know if Michael McBroom knew me, but when I texted him, but I did tell him I'm an SFA alum. I'm glad we got him on.
I don't know. There's plenty of people willing to pay for publicity and pay for views and things nowadays. So I'm sure that they would be glad to. They'd be glad to have you in Dallas promoting the Knowles and getting some Texas flavor and doing all that. I don't think that there'd be a situation where they wouldn't. Welcome you in there.
Yeah, that'll be good. And then they can find the place that will do the show, and
like a restaurant, a sports bar,
whatever they. I don't know where they meet.
Brothel.
I don't know where they meet. No, I can't go to those places. I don't. But,
that'd be cool. I think that's a great opportunity. I know that you're excited about that game being at SMU. I did for about 2 or 3 years when Kyle first took over. He had a section of people in Nacogdoches who otherwise could not afford to go to a game. And the ticket prices to go to Johnson Coliseum for a men's basketball game weren't going to be very high. And I did that for a chunk of, I don't know how many, maybe 30, 25 or 30 for 2 or 3 years in a row. Really enjoyed that. And I texted back and forth with Kyle. I love that guy. And so we need to go to bat for SFA athletics. I do. Not you guys. Yeah. I do. Without question.
Well, I mean, I think that we provide a pretty nice platform for them that they otherwise wouldn't have. I'm sure there's shows down there and podcasts and whatnot, but I mean, again, I think college athletics is in the promotions business as much as anything. Yeah. And so, I think they'd be happy to collaborate with us on some stuff, or with you, I should say. But, I mean, it's good to hear their perspective and their positioning on where everything kind of is, because we always think of like, well, what's this mean for Texas Tech or Oklahoma State or BYU or whatever, and not so much of the SFAs of the world, and they are affected in a major way, and there is a argument that can be made about the drop-off between a couple of conferences at the top and then the others that have been similar, but there's no denying the gulf that's always existed between the teams that we typically talk about and the level of SFA, but that gulf has grown enormously in the last year because they were already up against it as is, and now like nothing favors them really. So I think, based on the explanation, how do you feel about them making the moves?
The Southland Conference has a lot of schools out of Louisiana. There are some schools in Texas, and that really was the old core. I when I was there, they were a part of, I think at the time it was the Lone Star Conference with Abilene Christian. It was East Texas State, which is now Texas A&M Commerce, Sam Houston, but there were good ties to Nicholls State, McNeese State, now Northwestern Louisiana, schools like that.
It's a shame that for SFA, it's a shame that Sam Houston got so big to move on to where they are now.
There's no reason why SFA should not have been there right next to them when they walked to the FBS. There's no reason why they shouldn't have been in that position, but obviously they weren't.
Right. I got a little off-the-radar combat sports news here that Paul passed along. I don't think this comes as any surprise, but if you're a fan of the occasional big fights like I am when it comes to UFC or boxing, I hope you weren't getting your hopes up too much for the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight that was coming up this summer. It is now postponed, not canceled, postponed, although I don't know that the odds are great that this will get back on track. We'll see.
Mike had
a lot of money at stake, so I can see where it would.
Some sort of health issue on the flight.
Yes, Mike Tyson had a medical scare on a plane flight this week, and said during the follow-up consultation with medical professionals on his recent ulcer flare-up, that's what the exact reasoning was the ulcer. The recommendation is for Mike Tyson to do minimal to light training over the next few weeks and then return to full training with no limitations. So both Mike and Jake are in agreement that in order to keep it fair, he's going to take the time to get back to where he needs to be, and he's expected to return to a full training schedule in the coming weeks. Blah, blah, blah. The new date of the fight will be announced by next Friday, June the 7th. So I didn't love this from the very beginning. I mean, I did love the idea of Jake Paul fighting somebody that's more his size, not his age in any way, shape, as he's half as young. But just somebody that I know can knock him out. I know can knock him out. But at the same time, the age thing is a bit scary, especially when the other guy's in his 20s and is in tip-top shape. So it was already kind of just a, I don't know what you call it, a carnival-type fight anyways.
I've seen these over the year.
Right.
Carnival is probably a good word, and who knows what would have happened. It's one of those, it's like a train wreck to me.
Yes.
There's always the puncher's chance, and yet again, a body of size like Jake Paul would just probably lean on him. I remember when Muhammad Ali was obviously I don't know exactly how many years after he had beaten Foreman in 1974, and boxing at that time was incredible, and he fought a Japanese wrestler, Antonio Inoki.
Yeah.
And it was a clown show.
Well, it was a clown show because Antonio Inoki just got down and kicked him in the legs
he got
over
down
and over and over again
because
it wasn't boxing rules, just fist only. And so Inoki, being like an actual skilled fighter in a sense, he was a pro wrestler, but had martial arts and whatnot. He just got down and just kicked the hell out of Muhammad Ali's legs the entire time.
I hope he made a lot of money for that. But
probably not nearly as much as he would make in this day and age.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be as far as
But no, like the one thing I thought about this one, and I've never watched either of the Paul brothers do anything, but I was intrigued because, like you said, even though it was probably unlikely to happen, if Mike Tyson he can still do it where if he gets square on you a couple times, he can knock him out. So,
and I do wonder, though, the other way, a young guy in his 20s who's got some knockout power. I mean, I give Jake Paul some credit. I don't think he's always had the most even matchups. They've been very selective in how they've curated his opponents. For example, a guy who, was a heavyweight champion, but also is double his age, and has been through a lot in life. That makes a difference. I don't care who you are. When you're a 20-something-year-old versus a 50-something-year-old. But, he it could have gone the other way. And I would have been sad, honestly, to see Mike Tyson at 50-something years of age getting knocked out like in a sideshow type thing. But, that's the appeal. That's what people are going to sign up for. But they're going to have to wait a little while if it ever ends up happening now.
There are stories and bad memories littered throughout boxing history of fighters waiting one more fight too long. Ali and Larry Holmes, when Larry Holmes just beat him into submission eventually. I did the play-by-play of that fight but on the radio on campus at SFA. Thank God nobody else could hear me. Here's a story. Inoki and Ali was to receive $6.1 million. This was back in that time, and Inoki up to $4 million. Because I'm sure that the purse and the ticket sales, there's like 17,000 people who were there.
Well, it was in Japan. So Inoki over there is like a god, and especially at that time period. So to bring over a true, the American god in Muhammad Ali and have them fighting in Japan was a massive, massive deal. And then to have the mixed rules as well was unique. So anyways, that was that era, and now we got the Paul brothers. I will say though, Logan is a damn good pro wrestler. I know it's a totally different thing, but he's found, I think, his niche for sure. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere in that regard for a while. I'll give credit where credit's due. Yeah. He's picked it up very quickly. And look, gets it.
The kind of nature of internet stardom, and self promotion can go well if you.
Oh yeah, he's very good at that too. He knows he's. I think he's helped basically teach this next generation of how to self-promote and do all of those. Those two, amongst various others across the world, have been kind of the charge of the whole YouTube, TikTok, whatever else social media influencer era, I guess, that we're in nowadays. But anyways, there you go. That was just a little note, and that's something we kind of touched on. And I'm not going to be here for Off the Radar, so that's probably when I would have mentioned that.
Yeah.
But, no Paul Tyson fight for at least right now. But get healthy, Mike. That sounds like it was a scary deal.
Sir blah, 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 postponed to never.
That's what I think,
Paxton,
probably.
Fight me, not old people, you punk.
I'd love it, Paxton, if you'd go and fight Jake Paul. That'd be awesome.
Let's see here.
I'd be in your corner.
I think most everyone is the Tyson-Paul fight canceled. Barry, yes, it's postponed. Canceled, postponed. There is this question. I don't know if I don't remember us discussing this. I remember seeing this, and I don't know if it's today or yesterday, about the SEC and Netflix and a deal that they're having to have is that a reality type show?
Yeah, the same way they did the Drive to, what's the
Drive.
They did the F1 series. They did the golf series. You watched the golf Full Swing.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, basically the same concept, I think, in general, of just having a Netflix reality show to follow, in this case, the SEC teams, I suppose. I didn't see a lot of the actual details of this, but that was the basic gist that I got, where it would be Hard Knocks, type reality programming, but for, I guess, all of or some of the teams in the SEC. And so, if you're into that sort of thing, I could see where that'd be up your alley, and maybe would have a nice audience. And that's just another, I think the basic takeaway from it is people are always looking for sports programming, and you never know what the next hit is. And we've seen Netflix do plenty of reality shows, so this would make sense to go after the SEC. But I think the other part of it is there's the exposure piece of it, but there's also the money piece.
Oh, no question.
And that's the main piece. I think everything with college athletics, we roll back around. We talk about all these other things, but ultimately we roll back around, and there's just another lane of revenue, right, to bring into the coffers of the conference and of the schools who I guess would be a part of that, would be to get paid whatever you get paid for that. And I don't know, there's an extra few $100,000 or $1 million or whatever, and promotion that's priceless, being on Netflix and having the advertising and the platform. So that's a smart move. It's one of those things. Brett Yormark talks about trying to make deals and be in business, and he's talking about actual business. And I think that's one of those things that you would look at, would be doing something like that, or having just outside the box thinking like that. So I would not be surprised to see that come down the pipeline.
I'll use this when you're talking about the SEC Netflix. The SEC is gold. Jerry finds ways, even when his team is either pretty good but they can't finish or whatever, he's going to make money out of things. And I think if you just put the SEC on anything, that you're not going to no one's just going to throw money out there for them, but they're so popular, so widely viewed, a massive fan base with so many different schools throughout the South, but now adding Texas and Oklahoma.
I think they're one of the most watched, obviously, and the most popular, because I think, a lot of it is the region that they're in is just so football hungry, and that's part of their ammo, is just how much the people of the Southeast love football and college football in particular. But if you were to go invest, if you're Netflix, the Big Ten, I'm sure, would bring a good audience. I don't know how they have like the excitement perception problem, I feel like.
The Big Ten?
Yes.
Like it's the mausoleum?
It's like, yes. That's how I feel sometimes in watching. And if you watch Iowa, versus.
But it's not like Iowa is a function of the problem,
right,
and they're like because they're the good one. Like,
right,
Iowa wins all these games in a boring fashion.
Yes.
And it's not exciting.
God, I wish my team could do that.
But here's the thing. Your team is one of the teams that loses to them in that boring fashion. Mm-hmm. So they have a whole side of their conference that is
they're boring, but they rarely beat themselves.
Well, so that's great for the old school football fans. And Iowa's just the avatar of the problem when you've got the other teams that were in that side of the Big Ten that had the same problem.
Wisconsin,
that had the very
methodical running
I just think
game.
If you're thinking of like, what's the exciting brand to bring in to get a bunch of people to watch, there's one obvious choice. It's got a massive following, has excitement to it, has like this stigma that's like they're the best about it. And
Penn State with their black high top shoes.
And to actually pay the SEC a compliment that I never thought I would on this, but like, the SEC, the Big 12 does this a little, but for the most part, the SEC, like, even their bad teams still kind of play an exciting brand of football. Like, most of the time, like, it's not like you've watched SEC versus SEC. Very rarely is it.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
Is it completely?
No, you're right. But wait a minute. There were many, many years, remember, where what the Big 12 was doing was like some foreign language.
But guess what? The SEC,
they adapted.
Look, they tried to stop it because that's what they do. And then when they realized that was futile, they're like, okay, we'll do it. And so then it's worked out for them.
Is the Big Ten more up-tempo than we realize? Or
a lot of it is, but the problem is that the teams that do it also aren't very good.
Yeah,
so like Purdue is not very good.
Like Wisconsin's, going to be more of that way under Luke Fickell, but I think there's the excitement sort of reputation that it's not nearly as exciting a brand of football as other brands of football, particularly the SEC brand of football. They clearly have as much of an audience and as much of an alumni base and all those types of things, as much of a history, of course, all that. But I do think they also suffer from, and maybe this is cured with realignment a bit, but they don't have as good of a cast. They have the same two teams that we mention every single time, and the one rivalry that we really talk about every year. And outside of that, it's kind of hit or miss on what we talk about. Like, does everybody get super excited about Michigan State every year across the country? No. Do we get excited about Ohio State, Michigan? Everybody loves that one. But outside of that, it depends, like, how good is Penn State? And then when Penn State's good, it's like, what matchups do we get excited for? Penn State, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. And so, whereas with the SEC, you've got 10 teams that you mix and match them, and you're like, damn, that's a good-ass game right there.
Paxton's saying, but don't forget now with Oregon and Washington, with USC, that'll help boost them a little bit.
That's what I'm referring to is like when I said I don't know if this is going to change, it very well should and could, and that's part of the appeal of bringing those in, is having more names, more exciting brands, more matchups that are intriguing to people across the country because there's a lot of good games. I just don't think that when people are rolling through, they necessarily stick on them because of maybe there's just this reputation that it's bland old school football, and that's not the case all the time. But you resort to the same Michigan Ohio State, Michigan Penn State, Penn State Ohio State, and that's kind of where you always revolve around.
And the weather could also be a factor in how they play football.
Well, yeah, it is. And that
doesn't mean you can't throw it around, but
but like in quarterback availability, like the talent, like all those things that go into it.
And we're talking about for a reality show. So as far as exciting brands, I don't think there's much of a competition.
But Craig's completely right in the way he said, like, they have an excitement perception problem. Yeah. And part of it just is also like, they're the glorified ACC that like 2 or 3 teams win that league. Now, the SEC has more teams that have won the league over a spread out period of time, but really it's one team and then like a rotation of others that won it for a long time. With Alabama, the Big 12 had the same problem with Oklahoma. It was Oklahoma, and then like occasionally somebody like pops their head above ground. It's like, oh, hey, look at us.
Yeah, it's like Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah, exactly. But now, like, the Big 12 will probably not have that problem. I mean, because there's not anybody who can maybe go and run and hide like Oklahoma.
Well, we've seen the last few years.
To see if somebody can.
Texas, Kansas State, Baylor a couple times, Oklahoma, TCU. Well, TCU didn't win the Big 12.
State. Yeah.
But yeah, I think with the Big Ten, the new team should definitely help. That should grow and bring another exciting layer to that as well. But yeah, I think just in terms of popularity and what's going to probably attract the most eyeballs, if you're Netflix making that investment, that's the logical choices to go to the SEC. And who knows, maybe that changes over time. But for right now, that's pretty simple, I think.
All right, do you guys want to keep going or break here?
Do you guys know that I have to pee?
Okay,
you should be sympathetic.
No, you're going to have to beat me to the door.
But first things first, I want to go over team by team the predictions for.
I want you to go over the rosters and numbers of Baylor football.
Let's take a break.
No, wait a minute. Do you really have to?
Yes, I've been here since 4:55.
There's nothing wrong with this discussion.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the discussion.
One of the post-op issues
I get
I dealt with.
I know is like my filter system's gone. I completely understand that. I don't want that to happen to me. So, because my back teeth are floating.
But first, we got our next guest joining us now, Josh Neighbors from.
So we'll do then we'll do the SEC wide receivers.
Do we have a commercial here?
Yes, God damn it, we do.
No, that's not it. We don't need to use that one. This is I know you didn't mean that. You said it though. 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for a lot of great deals right now on their lot, whether it's new vehicles, pre-owned vehicles, also great customer service, great repair shop. You're looking to get your tires fixed up, looking to get in a new vehicle. Wide range of options there for you over at Richard Carr right now, and it's the summertime, so families are traveling around, and maybe you're going on a trip with your wife, a trip with just your wife and kids, husband and kids, whatever the case may be, just your buddies from college. They can hook you up and give you that precious peace of mind when you're traveling the roadways, especially during the hotter summer months that we're about to start enduring. So right now, save $11,000 on a GMC Sierra ATX 4x4 model. Qualified buyers can get 1.9% financing for 72 months. Military and first responders can also save an additional $500 as well. And that's, once again, special savings right now, over $10,000 off the GMC Sierra ATX 4x4. Also, a lot full of quality pre-owned vehicles awaits you over at Richard Carr as well. Over 90 highly inspected used cars and trucks, plus their constant goal of 100% credit approval as they say yes when others say no. So head on over and check out what they've got to offer as far as the GMC Sierra ATX 4x4. Get yourself a test drive today, or check out their lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well, or just get your car looked at and worked on and get that oil changed and have it in tip-top shape as you hit the road this summer. But regardless of what you get done, you're going to have great customer service, because for 25 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
We love TexasBeefHouse.com, the Duvall family, and everything they represent, their products, and also those who love to grill during the summer. We've discussed that with Samantha Duvall, who joins us, and now Father's Day is just around the corner.
We've got this year a Wagyu New York strip Father's Day bundle, and that will come with a package of our New York strips. There's 2 steaks to a package of our jalapeno and cheese patties, a package of our regular hamburger patties, a stick of summer sausage, and our garlic links. And it's all online, TexasBeefHouse.com. This bundle will ship free in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So this is the perfect time to grab it, because all of our steaks are only sold in auction. There will only be a limited number of these packages. So get online and order yours for your favorite dad out there. We're growing every day. Our biggest next step that we have is Bid on Beef. It is actually going to open the month of June with a sale up in New York, but this is going to be a website that we're going to do all of our beef auctions on, so it just makes it a lot easier, our own platform.
Go to TexasBeefHouse.com. Father's Day, the summer, family reunions, and so much more, plus the ability to bid on beef. TexasBeefHouse.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at Marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America. 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
So one of the stories, and you wonder in 10 years, will many, I don't know how many old you'd have to be, but remember the Pac-12, kind of like the Big East when it comes to football. But John Wilner with the story, the Pac-12 reached a settlement in principle in a wrongful termination lawsuit related to the Comcast mess.
Well, and just to go back, Comcast was overpaying the Pac-12 networks for years. These two guys discovered it. They went to Larry Scott, the commissioner at the time, and said, hey, we've got all this extra money from Comcast. It's overpayment. And Larry Scott's plan was, don't tell anybody anything. Let's forget we had this conversation. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So then when Comcast finally does an audit and the Pac-12 is falling apart, they're like, hey, man, we've been paying way too much for these Pac-12 networks, and there's some overpayments here. And then these two guys got fired, and it was Brent Willman and Mark Shukin, the network president and CFO, dismissed in January of last year for failing to properly report that. But their claims were ostensibly found to be valid enough to where this was kind of a Larry Scott scheme. And now I wonder what awaits him.
Can he be,
but
he got a big old fat check, didn't he?
Yeah, so he did, but there's
interesting how he left compared to how Bowlesby left, even though some people were still kind of bitter and angry with him. He left, though, by helping make decisions that saved the conference, where Scott never did.
Well, Bob Bowlesby went out in a literal blaze of glory, where he made his best move right there before the end. And Larry Scott, we even found out the other day from Bob Thompson when we had him on that Larry Scott was a part of they offered them the same TV deal that the Big Ten got, and the Pac-12 was like, no, we've got this really cool idea. And they're like, okay.
Well, there are stocks that we should all be buying today that in 2 months might be worth several $100,000. So but we didn't know that ahead of time.
No, but
they didn't either. But still,
most of the people that were in that business told them, I think that's something you could maybe do in the future, but right now you just need to get the network on the air and get distributors. And they're like, no, we'll take care of that. And then DirecTV's like, we don't think so. And you should have run this past us before you came up with this idea.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, hindsight's 20/20, but he was, somebody who was, I think when it's understandable if you go back to that moment in time and go like, yeah, okay, you don't have the full picture, but then, you look back on it, it looks terrible. Like it's one of those things where hindsight's 20/20, and looking back, you clearly did not handle that the best way possible. But I just think there was the various stories of just how much they were overspending on their office building and things like that, and then the whole Comcast thing, and just a lot of mismanagement and bad business going on, and that's why they are where they are, and he's wherever he is. He's probably got some sweet consulting gig, semi-retired, and he's never going to have to worry for $1 in his life. But certainly the reputation he'll have in the college ranks, hard to imagine how that'll ever improve from being the guy who helped basically kill the Pac-12.
Here's another thing about the Pac-12. You said the high-rent office building. That's even before, this is San Francisco real estate prices are not a new thing. This is not a new thing that's come up in the last 10 years that it's expensive to live in San Francisco. It's always been expensive to live in San Francisco. That's the whole thing about it. So whoever made the decision, where Larry Scott or whoever, that they said, where should we put the centralized conference offices? And he said, the most expensive place that you can put any office in America.
Outside of Manhattan.
Yeah,
probably.
outside of outside of the Empire State Building or something like that. What are you doing? What? Why would you not go could we put it, in another part of the territory?
Well, that was that pinky in the air attitude that kind of got him into the mess in the first place. That was part of the, I guess the money will never dry up, and where the Pac-12, I don't know. But he had a role. George Klyavkov doesn't need to go without some, criticism either. No. Obviously, he's received plenty of it. But, Larry Scott is, I think, when you boil it all down, you go what's the root of the issue? That's where you eventually land. And it's unfortunate. I know there's a lot of speculation about, what comes next for what remains. And I think that's it's a very interesting question to unpack over these, coming months. Is they're going to do the kind of temporary fix for their schedule and their conference affiliation, and then, go from there as that money starts to get into their coffers and they have all that Pac-12 settlement money to play around with. I'm very intrigued by how they go about their business, and the options that are in front of them. Like, what are those? But also, how do you take two teams who are suddenly left out in the cold, handed a big bag of money for being left out in the cold, but no home to walk into yet, and say, all right, here's all the money you need to, in theory, survive, but you got to figure out how to do all the rest of it. You got to find your home, you got to find where the food is.
Your calendar clock is ticking,
and the clock is ticking on you in some ways as well. So I think that's going to – talk about a reality show. That'd be a hell of a – interesting, get into the weeds reality show on the survival of Oregon State and Washington State. I think would be really intriguing. But Larry Scott's not gonna have the most sterling reputation in college circles ever.
So what can they do? Is that a civil suit with him? Is there something they can prove, Paul, that he was negligent?
I mean, that's what I wonder.
He's been paid.
Well, he's complicit. Well, yeah, but he could always be fined or sued or something like that. I don't know. And look, Comcast. I say they don't need to, I don't know how they're going to go get that money, but, if they've been repaid back, then they're fine. But there might be something to it. I'm surprised it's not criminal on his part. That's where, to me, it would be surprising that you intentionally took extra money, told nobody to say anything about it. I mean, is that not stealing?
Well, is that the same as actually taking it?
Took it. They spent it on other things. So,
I wonder how much documentation there might be.
I understand that we're pretty soft on corporate crime in this country, but it sounds like a pretty bad one to me.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
I'm not crying any tears for Comcast, but it sounds like somebody.
Yeah, remember when all of a sudden
them off.
Popped its head, reared its ugly head about a year ago or whenever it was. All right, it's a Friday. Before we get back to the next segment with Paul's Top 5, Craig and I are out next week. We'll be in Florida for most of the week. If I'll be in there for a little bit longer. So we'll be out next week. So Paul will be riding solo with Garrett. Is that right?
Yes,
Garrett,
sir.
Great to have you back in the studio. How do you feel? Are you worn out today?
I'm a little tired, a little worn out. It's been a hell of a week, but glad to be back.
Garrett had a little physical setback. It's kind of like my first show when I got back on what day was I back? Was it Monday?
Tuesday.
No, Tuesday, because thank God Memorial Day gave me one more, I needed it, but I was at about 5 o'clock I was gassed, when you don't do it very much. So, all right, so we'll all have our various times away over the next couple of months. One thing we do know is we'll be in Las Vegas on July 8th, 9th, and 10th, and then the next week at the Omni in Dallas, most likely there for a couple of days for part of the 4 or 5 days of the SEC Media Days. This is 365 Sports and the Top 5.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Heidi-ho, good neighbor. Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, and if you got the reference, there in Heidi-ho, good neighbor, you were alive in the 90s. Top 5 year one coaches with the biggest rebuilds ahead. Obviously, we'd like to thank Texas Beef House, and one more shout out to Mullybox for the gear that they sent us today. Use our promo code and get 25% off your first box. So, top 5 year one coaches with the biggest rebuilds ahead. Let's dive in. Number 5, Deshaun Foster at UCLA. UCLA has not won a conference title since the late 90s. They have peppered in over the years a good season with Jim Mora Jr., a good season with Chip Kelly, kind of good seasons here and there where they compete for the conference, but they've not won it. This is a program now going into the Big Ten. This is a large undertaking, especially going in with Oregon and Washington and USC, all teams who have won the Pac-12 multiple times since you have last won it. So, or the conference, now they're not winning the Pac-12, they'll be winning the Big Ten. But this is a big rebuild for them to be back to relevance. And really, UCLA football-wise has kind of always been an also-ran. And I know that there'll be some UCLA fans that come at me for that. But again, haven't won a conference title since Cade McNown was your quarterback. Cade McNown. That's a long, long time ago. Number 4, Bill O'Brien at Boston College. This is maybe one of the more complex situations in that here's Boston College as a small school in the ACC, a conference that is under fire right now from its 2 strongest football members. And here Bill O'Brien, who was an excellent college coach at Penn State when he was there, and he was a pro coach to varying degrees at what you want to say, but he has a really good football mind, and he's a really good coordinator. Did a good job at Alabama, and now he's on his way back to being a head coach in a place that he likes in Boston. But this is a tough job at Boston College. This is a small private school. They're not going to have the NIL resources. And again, they're one of the schools in the ACC that really needs that conference to hold together for as long as it can. Otherwise, they're out in the desert. And they just have not been really regularly relevant since, I can't even remember when. Matt Ryan had a great run there, but since then, Boston College has just been a rocky road, and this is going to be a tough job for Bill O'Brien, especially given the situation in modern college football and how tough it'll be for schools like BC to get on top and stay on top, especially when you have no history of competing and winning that conference at all. Number 3, Curt Cignetti at Indiana. His conference just got a whole lot harder. And, of course, he comes over from James Madison where he had a great run and now steps into a Big Ten program that, again, has at best in its football life in the middle of the pack. And it had to be tough for Indiana fans to watch Michael Penix Jr. Play in a national championship game, get drafted into the NFL and dice it up after he transferred from there to go to Washington. But these are the things that Indiana is going to have to prevent. And look, it's kind of tough sledding in Indiana right now. Their first love is basketball. That has not been up to snuff for quite a long time. They keep running through coaches there. But everything runs through football in modern college athletics, and they've got to make sure that they're good at that. Now, they're in the Big Ten, and they have a nice, soft landing place as far as revenue goes. But the bottom line is competing in this league is going to be very tough, especially for schools like Indiana, who have been stuck in the middle of nowhere for a long time. Number 2, Bronco Mendenhall at New Mexico takes over a team that was 11-32. Now, look, his job might not be, I think the coaches in the G5 will maybe have a bit of a smoother run, but New Mexico has gone through a ton of head coaches, just came off an 11-32 run over Danny Gonzalez. This is a guy who won at BYU. He won a little bit at Virginia. He knows what he's doing, but can you win at New Mexico? Can you start competing for conference titles in a place that even in a G5 conference hasn't regularly done that over and over again through the last couple of decades? Can you get New Mexico back to relevance in college football and winning their conference? And look, if you win that conference, you've got a shot at the college football playoff, even in the G5. So can you do that? Now, that's going to be a tough one for Bronco Mendenhall. And number 1, Fran Brown at Syracuse. In the anthems of basketball schools, a couple of which we've been on here, Indiana and UCLA, obviously, on this list. Syracuse is a basketball school. They love basketball. It's their first love of sports. But their football history going back, if you start maybe back at Donovan McNabb, Marvin Harrison, and go back, you've got a lot of really, really, really fantastic players. Jim Brown went to Syracuse, for God's sake. So it's not like they don't have their share of Hall of Famers rolling through there program-wise. It's just they have, since they left the Big East especially, just not really been much to talk about football-wise. Can they get a corner on that Northeast talent? Can he get into Ohio? Can he get into Pennsylvania? Can he get those kids to Syracuse and get them believing? Fran Brown's a guy who is an excellent recruiter, who people want to play for. He was here at Baylor for a short time. He had head coach written all over him for a long time. He is someone who is going to be successful as a head coach. Will it be at Syracuse? That will be interesting to see. But I think he's got a long way to go. Now, look, you can maybe shortcut it with NIL and different things like that. But again, another team in the ACC that no one's really thinking about when it comes to, well, let's go make our football money. Well, Syracuse is like, what are we going to do? Well, yeah, we'll worry about you later. But it's really about Florida State and Clemson right now in that league, and leaving teams like Syracuse and Boston College, who I mentioned earlier, to swim even harder upstream to try to make hay in that conference. That's going to do it for the top 5. We're wrapping it up right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul Catalina. Grayson Grunhafer was a part of us, Ross Dellenger, Matt Brown, and also Michael McBroom. We appreciate our guest for our show today. Every weekday, 1 until 2, triple option other than Friday. Every weekday, 3 to 6, this is 365 Sports. For those of you who subscribe, thank you very much as we continue to move now towards 45,000. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, we'd love for you to do that.
By the way, thank you to Kim S. Michael DeHart and Retired Stockbroker for their super chats. It was right in the middle of Ross Dellenger, so we did not get to them. But you heard the ding.
Yeah,
let me hear it.
Oh, no, I told him not to do that. But hold on, Jack's going to do it.
Does it?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, with me.
Yeah.
Is that like a text alert?
Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's somebody who, is
thank you to Kim, Michael,
donated.
S.
So, yeah,
Michael,
absolutely.
and also Retired Stockbroker.
And if you want to do that, well, I guess we're not going to be here, but next week, and you want to attach a question to that, and like, hey, $5 and ask about realignment or something, we'll gladly go on.
Adam will go
talk. Well, hey, we won't. That'd be great. But
no. And we tried, like when we had Matt Brown on, it was great to get feedback from some of you. We were able to ask 3 or 4 questions.
Yeah, and we don't really push for that, but I'm just saying, like in the future, if you want to, get us on a certain topic. That would be a way to do it. And yeah, that sound at least acknowledges that we hear that, we see that, and we appreciate that for sure.
That's a good idea. Great sound. Thanks for the super chats. Also, thanks for those in the chat room. I know Paxton's preoccupied because Texas and, University of Louisiana are now playing in baseball. Nebraska lost as always. Florida State won earlier. Oklahoma plays tonight, covering the teams that we all like in some particular way. All right, for Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, thanks to Jack McKenzie. Garrett Ross, great to have you back. Jack, and I know he says it's great to have you back. Emery Winter working on 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. Have a great weekend. I'm David Smoak. This is 365 Sports, and good night.